G'day, mate. It's your dear Uncle Colin. How are ya? It's actually David Wilcock in disguise. It's not even a real cigarette, but it works pretty well nonetheless. You know, it kind of gets the job done as far as faking you out. Anyway, wow. I've been through hell, you guys. It's just like, I'm so glad that I'm actually here and I'm actually doing this show. Looks like everybody can see me and hear me. I have to make an entrance, yes. So let's take some of your comments at the beginning. I need a flash, solar flash. I hope he tells us to burn our pants. These things are just driving me nuts. I'm sorry you have that affliction. David is my soul brother. We grew up together. Let's send love energy to the software. Everything will be fixed and working perfectly. Intent. What is it with the proton belt mentioned by Carrie Cassidy? We'll probably get into that. David, thank you for the interview with Chris Beskar. I'm growing tired. Well, I hope you're not tired now. Anyway, wow. I didn't even want to do a show today. I was actually going to not do a show today. But you guys are rolling with the comments. Heck, you're looking good, Dave. I made it, yay. Hello there. Finally caught my first live broadcast. Thank you for being brave and vulnerable with your actions. Vulnerable. Oh my goodness. Anyway, no, I'm in a good mood, actually, because I don't have snow on the ground right now. I've been through, after I did my last show, which I still consider to be, you know, the defining statement that I can make on what's going on right now. Wow, that one is all yellow, and the other ones are... Let's see if we can fix the color tone on this camera. I am anal enough to want to do this live, so... 7 I never fixed. You get to watch me change the color in real time here. We're dialing it down to 3750 because see, there's this color temperature thing. There we go. That looks a little better. Maybe we'll jack that up some, knock that down. Okay, perfect. See, did that really hurt you that much? No, it didn't really hurt you that much. But now I feel better because my cameras all look good. I got through all 6 of them, but not 7. 6 is actually the slide. So anyway, you know, I'm pretty relaxed because I wasn't even planning on doing a show, so I didn't really have time to get nervous, per se. I don't really get nervous when I do shows in general, but I mean, after I did the last one, as I was telling you guys, we had a 3-foot, actually it was 5 feet, it was 54 inches was the official word of what came down in my town. Almost 5 feet, which is 56 inches. 54 inches of snow is no freaking joke, folks. I've been preparing for this since my last show 2 weeks ago. I knew it was coming, starting on Wednesday night. I ended up doing all this work to get ready for it, and I didn't have that bad of a problem. It ended up working pretty well, and so as a result, I mean, I say that, but like I was up from 3:45 a.m. First thing that happens is my dog craps on the carpet. This is actually true. She crapped on the carpet. At 3:45 in the morning, I wake up to this smell. And when I'd taken her to bed at like 7:30, I went to bed really early because I knew I was going to have to shovel. I go out there and there's already like 6 inches of snow on the ground. And it had just been 1 inch like a couple hours before. So it happened really, really fast. It was very scary. I get up at 3:45. I got dog shit on the ground. On my carpet, I had to clean all that up. And then I got to go and shovel. And I shoveled from 4:15 to 7 p.m. 4:15 a.m. to 7 p.m., pretty much nonstop. Same with the next day. The snow finally stopped coming down like Friday morning. It was all day Thursday. I had a power outage on Thursday as well. That was really, really freaking crazy, folks. Imagine that you got all this snow coming down and then you lose power for 3 hours, right during the time I'm supposed to have my board meeting. For Stavati, by the way. And I missed some very important news. There's been some very exciting stuff happening. We're having a satellite location opening up for us in Texas. It's looking very promising. We have a few investors who are looking very promising. We're having progress with the U.S. military, progress with some foreign countries' militaries. So there's a lot of good things going on. I actually am not so much thinking that I'm going to stay broke forever anymore. But I will say that being utterly and absolutely bankrupt now for almost 3 years, over 2.5, has been very, very intense. There's PTSD from the fact that you got all these bill collectors. The IRS is coming after you for $1 million in my case. You got all this crazy stuff going on, all these bills with lawyers, and I'm always paying bills on our facility in Niagara Falls, and so, you know, I basically don't have the money to do that anymore. So we're at a really big juncture where we have to get more funding right away because I've exhausted my ability to bail out the company. I just can't keep bailing out the company. So I don't think we're going to have a problem, but this is before anything has actually happened. We do have an investor now who's very excited, wants to do it right away, so I think it's going to happen. And that will at least give us a couple, like, of our basic lower cost business plans will now get financed. But anyway, I'm not so much interested in my personal stories. I wanted to, you know, share a little bit with you guys so that you just feel, yeah, I want to get started with something personal, but I don't want to lay into that too much. So obviously the title of the talk is Eclipse Predictions. Now, why is that such a big deal? Well, there have been some very provocative predictions surrounding the October, well, originally it was the October 14th eclipse of last year. We remember, if you watched the last show, and I would highly recommend you see the last show, we had some very intense prophecies in crop circles about something having to do with this solar eclipse that was on October 7th. And they flagged it in a crop circle that appeared in May in Italy of last year. And we talked about it in the last show. So at the time, I didn't know what was going to happen. But then when we actually got to October 7th, lo and behold, we had, a week later, the Israel war took off. Or October 7th was a week before the eclipse, rather. And that's when the Israel war took off. And it's still going. And the Ukraine war is still going. So here comes another eclipse. And this is a total solar eclipse. And it's going to be, you know, in totality across a good part of the southeast and on up through the east coast. Now, as you might have already been looking at some of these things too, I was seeing various, you know, projections about what this could be or what's going to happen on this particular date. I was like, I don't know. Oh, we got, somebody gave me 2222, so thank you right there. That's never mind the crabs. Thank you, David. You really helped me and my family in our awakening. Well, I won't mind the crabs, and thank you for the $22. All right, well, the super chats have already begun. Thank you guys for that. It does help. And I will try to call them out from time to time. Somebody says, Sniffles, you have a cold. Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I've been fighting snow nonstop for like 2 weeks. I haven't had any time to edit my other videos. I haven't had any time to watch my other videos. I haven't had any time to watch any videos. All I'm doing is surviving through this crazy, crazy one storm after another. I mean, basically since the beginning of February, living here has been incredibly horrible. Incredibly horrible. So I hope it gets better pretty soon. But anyway, the eclipses are usually associated with the fall of kings. And if you understand astrology, as we're going to talk about, there's a whole science behind eclipses and why they actually do have effects on the events that take place in the world and the events that take place all around us. So the question is really like, what are we going to do with the knowledge once we have it, and how do we prepare ourselves for what is coming? Because it appears that some very, very significant, if not civilization-defining events could be culminating between now and the eclipse, which is in just over 2 weeks away, 2 weeks and 1 day away from today. The eclipse is actually on a Monday, I believe, in 2 weeks from now. So we have a little bit of time, but there's a big, big backstory to all this, and the story gets back to the fact that we are suffering more than we need to, much more than we need to. Why would I say that? Well, what if the normal wealth and prosperity that we would enjoy with economics has been usurped by forces that are just taking that money and redirecting it to their own gain? I don't think most people understand how much classified military infrastructure has actually been built out. I don't think most people are aware that we have been seeing maybe even trillions of dollars per year getting diverted into so-called black projects, things that are not on the books, things that are not approved by Congress. And they include massive underground cities that are here on Earth that are, in some cases, 2 miles underground, deep underground military bases or DUMBs, DUMBS, right? You've heard that before. Well, that's true. And I've been speaking with many different insiders for a very long time. Oh, we just got $9.99 from Eric562. Thank you there. See, I can almost kind of see it out of my peripheral vision. So when I said that we are suffering much more than we have to, I'm really not kidding, because this money could have been used to help us out here on Earth, could have been used to build roads, bridges, build up our infrastructure, but instead it was building up a covert infrastructure that we don't get to see. So $30 trillion, $50 trillion probably isn't even too low of an estimate of how much covert money has been siphoned into this sort of thing. Now, we've heard for many years that even going back to, okay, the Apollo missions, right? What were the Apollo missions really about? What if I told you that the Apollo rockets cost much, much, much less than what they said that they did, and the extra money went to this other stuff, okay? Your brother donated $33.33. Thank you, David, sending positive energy to you. So that's awesome. Thank you. And when we see where all this money has been going, it's pretty amazing to figure out. Oh, Dan the Man sent in 20 CHF from Switzerland. Greetings from Switzerland, keeping an eye on CERN. Okay, so as you can see, they're rolling in here. The comments are rolling in. Bang, bang. Great point. Is Bitcoin going to 408,000? Well, I expect Bitcoin is in the middle of a pump and dump. It's gonna suddenly collapse. There's the 15th largest Bitcoin holder is some mysterious individual. Nobody knows quite who they are. They've been buying tons of stuff. It's a classic thing. Probably what's going to happen is there's going to be a big sell-off, and the people who are doing this on purpose will sell right at that moment, whereas everybody else will say, I don't know if I'm ready yet. I'm just going to hang on. If it starts going, I would say now might be a good time to liquidate some positions if you have it, if you have anything in Bitcoin. So it's hard to understand what's really going on here, because even back to the Apollo missions, they cost much more than they actually said they did. The money was going to these other places, and the rockets were significantly less expensive than we were told. The same thing, so I've been told, is true with the Vietnam War, with the Korean War, with the nuclear arms race, with the costs that we were saying we were spending on missiles. Another classic example is overpriced fighter jets. It's been one of the greatest ways for the DS, as I affectionately call them, to have excess money go into these other projects. Now, maybe once you find out what we're up against, you wouldn't be upset about the money going to these excess projects, because we actually do have an extraterrestrial presence on Earth from both positive and negative. And in fact, both sides of this war have worked directly with the military-industrial complex. As I said last time, in the 1950s, the Jason Society found a UFO crash where they got inside, and all it was something out of like the worst horror movie you could imagine. It's just all these ripped apart pieces of bodies, humans, that were rotting and smelled absolutely horrible. And it's just everywhere you go, it's just this stuff everywhere. And there were these dead beings inside this particular crash ship, and they were reptilian humanoids that were tall. And so the decision was made, we can't tell the public about this because it's too horrific. If we showed them a film of what's inside this thing, it's worse than any Hollywood horror movie we've ever made. And the beings themselves are pretty freaking terrible looking, so we can't tell anybody this stuff. Well, it turns out, as I've said before, that the whole biblical notion of angels and demons is very, very real. And we are now living in the final apex point of this. Prior to when COVID hit, I could talk about this stuff online pretty freely. I could talk about conspiracy theory or whatever you want. And nobody really seemed to care that much. I didn't get too much interference. There were trolls, yeah. We had satanic gang stalking going on. All that was happening. But that's unfortunately normal. I've been hated so strongly ever since I got online in 1996. And it's ironic that in the first couple of years, actually from 96, 97, 8, 9, 2001, and even into 2002, I contacted every single person who hated me individually to specifically find out, like, what in the world is going on here? Why are you so angry? And in all but one case, I was able to flip them. And so I literally had no haters for a long time, because if somebody hated me, I wrote them. And then I realized later on, I don't really want to be incentivizing hatred. I want to incentivize good things. And by the way, Jackie H. has donated $1.99. Thank you for all you do. Swiss Talia, greetings from Switzerland. Love your content. I got 20 CHFs. Jackie H. has donated $1.99. Gabriel Koning has donated $24.99 Canadian. So thank you. Who can hate David? Somebody said. I don't know. I mean, people... YouTube will not let us use ad blockers anymore. Sorry about that. It's not my problem. I don't usually get to watch any videos. I'm so busy. Oh, we got another one. Pillars and Strategies 3330. We know it's been hard. Step into Yahweh. By their design, your company is under a strain to deplete you. That's true. In order to restrict you from unveiling space-age technology, God is preparing you. Yes. Monica Papiz, $100 Canadian. Wow. Thank you. I've learned a lot from you, David. Q said this, $20. Thank you. So awesome, you guys. I really love that. I love just like having money show up. It's like the Easter bunny. But anyway, what I'm trying to do here is give you an overview of what is going on. And as I said, we're suffering much more than we have to, because so much of our money has been diverted into these black projects. And if you don't understand this, you really aren't seeing what's going on. There's been this huge presence of this organized negative group. It involved millions and millions of people. There's probably, based on the Savali estimates, it's probably like 2 to 4 million of them in America alone. That's just an insider estimate. So these people, if they don't want as many of us here, if they want to see a big reduction, and then they put it in these stones that we saw in Georgia that were guiding stones, right? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the stones said, yeah, let's get it down to 500 million. Well, that would eliminate, 7.5 billion. So, wow. I mean, this is stuff that's been out there for a long time. And like I said, I used to talk about it. I didn't have a problem. Somebody said $100 Canadian is like $6. That's not really true. It's maybe not quite half. It's better than half. Anyway, it is cool when you go to Canada and you spend an American dollar and it's worth more when you get there. That's one of the fun aspects of tourism. And I never was into all the weird stuff that Canada's into now, but like I used to go there very extensively, and I hope to keep going. Kathleen Malloy sent me $50, and it's pink, which is even better. That adds to the whole aesthetic, as you can see right here. So thank you, Kathleen. I'm happy, I'm happy that we're getting to the point where this is all reaching ahead. But it's been very rough, and a recent meme pointed this out in a funny way. My friend's talking about quantum physics, me, and then me says, sleep is just a time machine to breakfast. I have been laughing, I don't know why, but I've been laughing about this one so much. Because, there's truth in jest, right? And sometimes I do feel this way. Sometimes I am so pissed off and depressed and anxious about all the different things I'm seeing and all the different things that are going on that I just go to bed early, like I did before the snow started to come down. And then the next thing you know, it's time machine. You get up, it's time for breakfast. So that was very, very funny. But the bigger construct is we're in a cosmic battle between good and evil that has been going on for millennia. And right now, it is reaching ahead in our everyday reality like never before. Now, granted, they've loved the devil for so long. When you're Satan, whatever you want to call it, you go back even to the late 90s. It's like every single music awards ceremony has some kind of performance in it that has flames and has blood and has devil horns and has people wearing weird symbols and people wearing dark imagery, and the whole set is dark, and there's like a church, or there's like, eyes in the background or something. It's Katy Perry, it's Lady Gaga, it's Madonna, it's all every single freaking year. And I'm going like, don't you guys get it? Like, to the normies, I'm saying, don't you get that, like, this is not just a thing that they're doing to entertain themselves. They're really serious about this. Why are they so obsessed? Why do they keep showing you the same stuff year after year after year after year after year? I remember seeing the movie Maleficent, posters for that when I was in LA, and here's Angelina Jolie as the devil, you know, with the devil horns. And sure enough, in the movie, the whole thing is that she's got the wings and the horns, or the wings go away and then come back at the end of the movie or something. But they're obsessed. And they've been obsessed for a long time. And if you thought, oh, well, it's harmless, it doesn't really mean anything to me, I don't really care, you know, it has no effect on my life. No, this is actually something that's being done on purpose. This is the negative side telegraphing its moves in advance, hoping that when they unveil themselves in what they intended to call the revealing, that you would go along with it. That you would say, well, you know what, they're so scary and the world is in such a disaster. So for the longest time, I was having insiders tell me, here's what's going to happen. They're going to make an aggressive move to take over the whole planet. And if they did this, they're going to crash the economy. I've been hearing this since the late 90s. They're going to do a massive economic crash. Oh, I got more super chats coming in. David, thank you for being my higher power, 222, spaced out. Well, I'm actually not your higher power per se. I'm just a messenger, as I've said before, but thank you anyway. Thank you anyway. I don't want to be labeled as any divine force. I'm just another human being using the tools that are available to human beings telepathically. And that's getting into another story. So again, we're dealing with this cosmic battle between good and evil that's been going on for millennia. It's not going away. And you can't sit this one out. You can't ignore it. The hero's journey is this galactic template that we all are following because the universe is a consciousness construct. This is a very intrinsic part of the work that I'm talking about. Our galaxy is conscious. Our universe is conscious. Our sun is conscious. Our planet is conscious. And what's interesting is that our galaxy is designed... Oh, we got another one. Elizabeth Light Tarot, David, I met you in Sedona at the water store. You were such a kind soul to me. Love, a fellow New Paltz grad. Thank you. I usually am very cool if you meet me in person in public. It's extremely rare. I mean, I feel really bad because there was an old guy one time who was in my eye line when I was taping somewhere, and I got mad. And I told him, would you please get out of my eye line? I remember that one. That was one time I was rude to somebody. I remember I was with my ex-wife, Beth. We were walking at Moraine Lake Lodge in Canada, and a fan came up, and he was all excited, and I just really didn't want to talk to him, and I just was very rude. And Beth got mad. But, you know, those are like the only two times I can really remember where I was rude to someone. I mean, it might happen occasionally. Like if I'm really in a big crowd and I'm trying to get to the bathroom and people are yelling out my name, I'm going to pretend I can't hear it because I just got to pee. But anyway, yes, I'm very good with people. I've been very good with my audience. I'm kind when you meet me in person. That's just the way I am. You know, I feel that this is my family. If you are a fan of my work, you are my family. Because you understand what I've dedicated my life to. You understand what I've spent so much time working on, so much time developing this content over the years. So when we get back to this idea that the universe is a consciousness construct, what that means is there is only consciousness. The whole universe is formed out of the same thing that we would think of as thought. And thought doesn't even really necessarily equate to a tangible material reality. Most of us would think of thought as being a neurochemical phenomenon that's occurring in our brain as the result of neurotransmitters firing across synapses. No, there's something much deeper about that than consciousness. I've talked in many other shows about the geometry of the mind, that there are geometric patterns inside the mind. And in fact, this is all stuff that I talk about in Sacred Science of the Michael Prophecies. This is my relatively new course. I am going to promote it just once. 11 documentaries, 10.5 hours. I shot it on 7 camera angles. So please go to thedisclosure.com. And if you want to get a huge discount, the code word is jubilation. So again, the Michael Prophecies tells us, this is the new books that I wrote, 7 books that I wrote. If you order this course, you get all 7 books and you get 11 videos shot on 7 camera angles, 10.5 hours of content. It's amazing. And one of the things I talk about very extensively is sacred geometry. This idea that, wait a minute, consciousness appears in the mind as three-dimensional geometric patterns. We can prove this now. We actually know that this is true from Professor Henry Markram and his studies on the brain. It's not an ambiguous conclusion. It's a fact that there's tetrahedrons, there's cubes, there's octahedrons inside your brain where different groups of neurons fire at the same time in a geometric pattern like a cube. Imagine a cube. It's got 8 sides, 8 corners, 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. There's 8 different parts of your brain where the neurons fire simultaneously in the shape of a cube. And then they ratchet and they rotate, and there's millions of them per second going on inside your brain. So then the question is, well, now that we know that this is true, and in Michael prophecies I have other things about the brain, like the hippocampus has given us a whole geometric outlay of the places that we have to go and map out. And so one of the things I found was these studies of taxi cab drivers, and if they spend years driving a cab, then lo and behold, they get a much larger hippocampus because they have this larger amount of brain mass designed to note where they are and navigation. So another thing I'll say really quickly before we go on is that I do actually have a live conference. If some people are really want to get to see me in person, I've pretty much stopped doing that because honestly, the threat profile has been so high since COVID. The likelihood that somebody would hit me with something or stick me with something or spray me with something, it's like, I just don't want to do it, man. And I've been told not to do it. But anyway, we have really good security at this event coming up, and I am going to be there. It is the Disclosure Summit 2024. It will be in Loveland, Colorado at the Best Western Plus Loveland Inn. Now, we also have tickets available. If you can't show up in person, you can see my talk. It's going to be epic. I think anytime I speak in front of a live, in-person audience, it's pretty epic. So another thing that's really cool is that the CEO of Stavati is going to be there in person, Chris Beskar. So we're both going to be there at the same time. And he's going to have a whole talk, and he wants to disclose some new information. I'm a little on the fence about how much we want to disclose, but apparently one of the things he wants to say is that he was responsible for 2,500 classified aircraft being built. And I mean, he can prove it, but then he'd go to prison most likely. But the point is, he understands this whole business of overpriced fighter jets because this was one of the things he was doing. You know, the project cost might be less, let's just say might be less than the actual sticker price. And it might be that the other money is used for other programs. So there's some very interesting things that Chris has been through, and I'm going to be talking about the Michael prophecies, the 2025 solar flash, which is not going to be catastrophic. Apparently, we're all getting some kind of upgrade next year from this solar system celestial mechanics. So again, if you want to go see us live, I'm going to be there. We have a bunch of great speakers who are going to be there. Go to thedisclosuresummit.com, and please also add /David, or else I don't get the credit for the purchase. So I'll put a link in there in the description for this video. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But anyway, this is going to be my first live event that's a structured event since before COVID. So 4 years I've gone totally not being in front of an audience, except I showed up at the Disclosure Summit 2021 or something, maybe 2022. I forget which one it was. Unfortunately, the audio on that one is all clipped out. I probably could run a declip on it and make it watchable. I haven't done that yet. But that's the last time I've been in front of an audience. I don't need publicity. I don't need to be talking in front of an audience to feel good about myself. I don't need people coming up and crying and hugging me, which usually is what happens. I kind of was done with all that. I'm like, you know what? I love you guys, but I really need to find out who I am. I've been attacked. I've been hated. I've been mostly out of money my whole life. You know, it hasn't been an easy road at all. I've had a very, very difficult time doing what I do, and it's gotten much more difficult. One of the reasons why it's been so difficult to be me is this strange connection to Edgar Cayce. As I've said before, here he is at his desk. And if you look at the synchronicity between the pictures here, yeah, they kind of look alike. You know, there's kind of a similarity there between the two pictures. How do you imagine that? Well, Actually, when you put our faces side by side, as I show you right here, this is an astonishing facial resemblance. Oh, we got some more stuff coming. Elizabeth Light Tarot, Peaceable, says she donated $10. Greetings from upstate New York. The eclipse buildup is crazy, laughing my ass off. With these alerts, you'd think the Super Bowl was in town. Well, I didn't even want to do a show, man. I mean, come on. I'm literally like not into this. I'm only here really because I just feel like we don't have any time left. And instead of taking a day off and just enjoying myself before the snow comes down, I said, screw it, I'm doing another show. Kenneth Grapp says, hang in there, David, you are a warrior for the cause. Thank you, Kenneth. Scarlet Fire says, first we overlook evil, then we permit evil, then we legalize evil, then we promote evil, then we celebrate evil, then we prosecute those who still call it evil. Father Dwight Longnecker. That's kind of an unfortunate name, isn't it? Hey, Longnecker! Oh my God. Anyway, getting back to this Edgar Cayce thing, my life really got disrupted by this. Obviously, there's a facial similarity, and it's not just the face, it's the astrology. There's a billions to one odds against chance. I mean, you can't even calculate it, of how I could have a face that's so similar to Edgar's, and how I also could have the same astrology as it. Lynn Newbold sent 1999. Thank you, Lynn. So there it is right there. It's going right on by. So Edgar Cayce was born in 1877, died in 1945, and was very world-renowned for doing psychic readings. There's 14,000 of them that were preserved in writing, where he is not there. He's under hypnosis. He loosens his shirt and his collar. He goes into trance, and then his body says, yes, we have the body. And the only name it ever really gave, besides calling itself the source, was it called itself Archangel Michael. And part of what was really strange about Cayce's work was that he was doing medical readings that gave people unusual treatments. Oh, we got more of them coming in. Vu Tran 3333, thank you for all your dedication to humanity. Lori Owens, $10. Bang. All right, thank you guys. Getting back to this, the medical readings were unusual in that people had terminal case illnesses, and they wrote Cayce, and they said, I'm going to be here in my house at a certain time, a certain day. They didn't tell them what was wrong with them, and then the reading would just kick in and say, oh yeah, your stomach, and you got this gallbladder issue, and da-da-da. The readings were always right. Whatever they told you was wrong with you, it was true. And then they prescribed these unusual treatments that nobody had ever heard of, very strange remedies that actually worked. And this was essentially before the era of antibiotics, and many of these treatments became less needed or effective after antibiotics were invented. But you got to remember, you go and it's really sad. You go into a cemetery, you see all these little children's gravestones. Well, that's because infant mortality used to be much worse. And kids would die, you know, when they were being born or right after they were born. They'd be born ill and they couldn't get healthy. So we really have turned a corner, and since, you know, the advent of penicillin. But the Cayce readings were really curing people before then. And then what's also weird is that they... So wait a minute. Grow and Flow says, David is literally saying he is QAnon and that these people are communicating him with the craziest, most random signs ever. It's very, very easy and inexpensive to write a troll comment. It's very difficult to be me. And it's very difficult to get out here on camera and say these things knowing that people are going to ridicule you, right? So it's not like I'm getting off on this. I held off on showing those correlations of what the Q people were saying for a very long time. I mean, come on. Some of that stuff goes back to 2022, 2023, and I never said a word. So please don't hate on me if I'm pointing things out. If you can't see what this is going to be, then just wait for the eclipse. You only have to wait 2 weeks. I really don't think you're going to have to be disappointed much longer. Everybody, one way or another, wants to see something turn around. So again, Cayce had these Archangel Michael readings, and when Archangel Michael showed up, his body actually levitated off of the table. So this is something I looked up online from July 15th, 1928. And this is a quote from Hugh Lynn Cayce, Edgar's son. And when Archangel Michael appeared and the body was levitating, Hugh Lynn said the intensity and volume of the voice was overwhelming. Michael's message was given with such force I could hear windows rattling in their frames in our home. I could even hear cups rattling and the dish drainer in the kitchen. The vibrations nearly knocked us all out of our chairs. And I'm going to read to you from 1932's Contact. Michael said, "Be still, my children. Bow thine heads, the Lord of the way may make known unto you that have been chosen for service in this period, when there is a need for that Spirit being made manifest in the earth, that the way, which is the Christ path," they talk about that a lot in the Cayce and the Law one, "the way may be known to those who seek the light." This is the way of compassion, forgiveness, and love. "For the glory," this is very important, "the glory of the Father will be made manifest through you who are faithful unto the calling. For today will you hearken, the way is open, I, Michael, call on thee." Now, what exactly is he saying when he says the glory of the Father will be made manifest through you who are faithful? Well, the Michael prophecies tell us that as early as next year, 2025, we're going to go through this solar system celestial physics change. It was supposed to happen in 2012, and it could have been catastrophic, but Michael was able to offset that. In Book 3 of the Michael Prophecies, he says that the year 2012 Mayan calendar end date has been moved ahead to 2020. And it was December 26, 2020, which is right when you have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, the previous one being in 2000. They're about 20 years apart. So December 26, 2020 is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and it's just barely a month and a half after this highly contested election that took place in 2020. I didn't think that Trump was going to lose. You know, I thought T was going to win. I was fully expecting that there was going to be some type of massive alliance maneuver. Now, what is the alliance? That's the military of this country and foreign countries. Many, many intelligence services are also involved in it. And their goal is for us not to just suffer indefinitely. So once we go through this process, once we go through this awakening, if you've been doing this spiritual work, the glory of the Father will be made manifest. This means some of us are going to actually have ascension type of abilities as early as next year. Some of us will be glowing. Some of us will be able to control lightning with our hands. Some of us will be able to fly. Some of us will be able to bilocate. And once you get to this state, essentially, your body can't be killed. You could reanimate your body. Somebody could shoot you, and you just grow back the hole. Basically, there's nothing's going to stop you. So, it's essentially a type of immortality that happens. And again, this is very paranormal. But 35 different ancient cultures around the world told us to expect that we would see at the end of this 25,000-year cycle, the fifth root race is one of the things Cayce called it. And it's all people. It's not any one race. The golden race is another name for it, that humanity on earth, all of us, not just any one race, but everyone becomes golden. We have this golden light that we now radiate. So these prophecies I've been talking about throughout my whole career, but I expected that 2012 was going to be a solar flash, that the sun is going to basically give off this massive explosion, and that we're going to end up basically dying. But then it's not really death, it's ascension. You get transformed into this other thing while the planet is being completely ruined. There's pole shifts where the Earth just tips over on its side, and it's like this. We got another one. Fiona 1144. David, I am grateful for all that you do. Thank you, Fiona. David, I've been trying to connect with you about important information. Well, everybody wants to connect with me, so I try my hardest not to have that happen. David, your volume is low. The volume is a very difficult issue. I tried to make my volume louder 2 shows ago, and I had a huge problem from that. So I have to keep it at this level. I do apologize. That's why we do a cinematic re-upload. We got 2 more. Snowball, greetings and God bless from Drew, Rick, Tom, Eric, and Lou. And we got Create Luck, $2. Art Echo, 39 pounds, that looks like. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate that. Plasma Apocalypse, but it's not Apocalypse. I mean, it was... The way I was originally seeing that this thing was going to go down, yeah, I was expecting a solar explosion. I was expecting a pole shift. I was expecting super volcanoes to go off. I was expecting 80-foot tall tsunami to sweep across all the continents. You're not going to be alive. That's what I thought this was going to be. And there's so many prophetic references to this. It's in the Bible. It's in 35 different ancient cultures that say there's going to be some disaster. It's the end of the world. And we all get somehow, or those of us who are ready somehow get transformed. This has been what I've been teaching. I was expecting it in 2012, and then it didn't happen. So what's really going on here? Well, as time went on, 2020 comes by, and the election happens in this very strange way. We got another super chat here. Is anyone else getting ads every 10 minutes? Yeah, that's kind of what happens. I apologize for that. But, you know, we have to pay the bills here. So Gern Blanson, that was George C. said that. Gern Blanson, wow, $100. Good info, stay positive, enjoy the ride. We are living in interesting times. There he is right there. He's nice and red to let me know it's a big amount, I guess. Anyway, thank you for that. So yeah, it's been crazy that we've had these disaster prophecies. Oh, we got more of them. Skywalker DFS $5. David, take my money. Keep doing the Lord's work. Stephen Greenwood, $20 Canadian. Thank you. So yeah, this is really wonderful what's happening, because I get this telepathic message that started 2 years ago, and it's all this stuff that I channeled in the 1990s. Tony Jorgensen, thank you for the super chat. I love you and pray for your continued health. So this has been going on now where I've been working on these books. I ended up making 7 of them. They're all very readable, very fun. It's not overly academic. It's a wonderful thing to hear from this higher consciousness. In other words, I have the Edgar Cayce reincarnation. It's not just a face, it's also the astrology. This is another one of the weird things, is that my astrology looks like his. And now here's this prophecy saying that if you are faithful to the call, which is the call of service, the call to, you know, step out there and be seen and fight for freedom, the glory of the Father will be made manifest. Well, that's ascension ability. So then, knowing that Cayce's life was beset by many adversities, misfortunes, and suffering, some may wonder, Sandra Hutchins, thank you, 1999, there it is. Some may wonder why Archangel Michael wouldn't solve Cayce's problems. The answer to the question was, he who leads or would direct is continually beset by the forces that would try to undermine you. Believe me, I know that. He who endures to the end shall weareth, he that endureth to the end shall wear the crown. And what do I think this means? The crown really represents the ascension. The crown originally was a symbol of light rays coming off of your head. People on earth used to be this way, you know, and they were different than other people. Some of them probably did have elongated skulls, and they probably did have some pretty intense magical powers that they could manifest, lightning out of their hands, as I said, telekinesis, bilocation, levitation. We have a whole movie coming out, hopefully within just over a month or two. It's called Levitation. I'm going to keep talking about it. A lot of these things that I'm talking about are going to be in the movie. And we have some very exciting stuff to share with you soon about that. So it's important to understand that history is not random. We have $10 from 6 Month. Thank you. Bonnie Demlong, $20. I remember you from other shows. Thank you, Bonnie. Remember that last name. So that's really awesome. I appreciate it. History is not random. Events are structured according to the hero's journey storyline, which is a very specific set of beat points. And I wrote an entire book on this called The Synchronicity Key, which came out in 2013. So this is the cover and the side spine of the book. It was, you know, my typical thing is I do 540 pages. I max out on page count. What will they let me do? If the book gets bigger than that, they won't let you write it that big. You got to cut it down. So each of the Michael books are kept in that same guideline of around 540 pages or less. And there are 7 of them. And that's all I've been doing, was writing these books up until last October of last year. So one of the things that is very important to understand is the Mayan calendar is a pentagonal structure when we understand what the 25,000 year cycle really is. So this is going to set up a point that's pretty important. The Mayan calendar, of course, was found in Mesoamerica, and it's a very complex astronomical calendar. In some of my other works, I've talked about how all the different smaller cycles in the Mayan calendar, right up through the 400-year Baktun, correspond with Earth cycles or with cycles in the solar system. Certain exact cycles in the Mayan calendar are precise subdivisions of the orbits of the planets. And it's all of them. It's the Baktun, it's the Katun, it's the Tzolk'in 260-day cycle, all these different things. Very, very interesting. So for some reason, The people who built pyramids in Mesoamerica were really excited about a 5,125-year cycle of time. And John Major Jenkins did some great work in his books on the Maya. I see some more super chats coming in. Lynn Alexander, $15, tribute to your many talents. Truls Glavin, NOK 249, you rock, David. W. David Page, $10. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. So when I start to look at this 5,125-year cycle, I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And then gradually it dawned on me, wait a minute, everybody, so the Mayans, John Major Jenkins is talking about this very interesting galactic alignment that the Mayans apparently enshrined in their ball game that they were playing. They had a specific weird game that they were playing where they would sever a human head and kick it around like a ball in this court, believe it or not. A live human head that was no longer alive, obviously, once it becomes the ball, but they played this disgusting game, and it was somehow tied in John Major Jenkins' work with galactic alignment. You can read his book, Maya Cosmogenesis 2012. He unfortunately passed away, but he did some great stuff, and he was the main guy proving that the Mayans knew that at the end of the Mayan calendar, they were expecting some sort of galactic alignment, and apparently the origin of a new root race. So when I thought about 5,125 years, what is that? And then I said, well, let's take it and multiply it by 5, and it comes out to almost exactly the same length as the 25,000-year cycle. In fact, it's about 25,625 years. So if you can divide up this big cycle that 35 different ancient cultures talk about, this weird wobble in the Earth's axis, the so-called precession of the equinoxes, okay? It's very confusing, it's very frustrating, but it's like the Earth is spinning in one direction like this, but then it counter-rotates the other way. And that counter-rotation takes 25,000 years. We have this researcher, Walter Cruttenden, who's concluded that this is because our solar system is orbiting another star, and the orbit itself takes 25,920 years. Well, as soon as I started putting it together, I said, wait a minute. If you take 25,506, if the basic Mayan calendar thing, as I said, is 25,625, but 25,920 is really close. Chop it up into 5 pieces, draw the orbit of our solar system, which is the orange star at the top, draw that orbit as a perfect circle as we're orbiting this companion star, which I've shown here as a blue dot, divide it into 5, and sure enough, you get this pentagon. And the Mayan calendar is exactly one side of the pentagon. Now you say, well, David, okay, there's going to be some guy in here on the troll list right now. He's probably hating on me. There's always somebody. David, quit lying. There's one right there. David, quit lying to these fools. You're all about money. No, that is absolutely not true. If I was about money, I would be doing live events. I would be doing conferences. I would have merch. I would sell coffee mugs, shirts, pens that said David Wilcock on them. I don't do any of that stuff. Anybody who tells me it's all about money has no idea what they're talking about. I have been completely functionally bankrupt for over 2.5 years. I'm being dragged into an IRS hearing. I have a lawyer. I can't even meet my tax installment payments. So anybody who thinks it's about money, my God. But you know what? I mean, I just call it rate objection. And I've been dealing with it since 1996. And I used to contact every one of these people in person. Where do you think I'm getting all this money from? And then when I did get money, I invested it into the military, into our future, to get the military to declassify patents for free energy, patents for anti-gravity, patents to clean up garbage, things that will heal our planet. I did not take my money and buy some big mansion. I'm living in a house that isn't even any good for the winter. I don't want to defend myself. I mean, the point is, the trolls, that's all they want you to do is to be defending yourself. Oh my God, you can't make money. Oh my God, I hate you. Oh my God, you're a liar. You're a con man. You're a thief. You're a con artist. I don't even care what they say anymore. I really honestly don't, because I know when I look in the mirror that I'm being honest with myself, and I know that I'm being truthful to God and truthful to my own higher power, whatever you want to call that. That's the best I can ask for. So anyway, this is scientific stuff, folks. We take the 25,000-year cycle, we chop it up by the Mayan calendar, you get these 5 nodes, okay? And these are nodes in interstellar space. So now imagine that you're watching that orange star orbit through this circle, just like the hand of a clock is going to tick through the clock. Every time we hit one of these corners, we get a solar flash. Okay, this is a regular cycle. The Mayans were actually charting a solar flash cycle. And there's no doubt about this. And we get this from glaciologist Dr. Lonnie Thompson. Now, even within our own solar system, we see these geometric patterns outlining the way that the planets are spaced, and I will talk about that way more in Sacred Science if you want to buy that course. It really, really helps us out a lot. I am, again, in a very severe financial crisis. Hopefully that will end soon, but it has not ended yet. So our own solar system has these weird geometric patterns. What you're looking at here on the top is the dodecahedron. It's the exact relationship between Venus and Mars. If you make everything into a circle, take away the ellipsis from going through the galaxy. On the bottom is Earth and Mars, and it's an icosahedron. So what I'm actually saying here, as I've said in other talks, is that these are actually gravitational spin currents. There is a spin field within gravity, and glaciologist Dr. Lonnie Thompson found out that there was a 5,200-year cycle where the sun would give off a flash and there's catastrophic events on Earth. Well, wait a minute. If Dr. Lonnie Thompson's cycle is 5,200 years and the Mayan calendar is 5,125 years, that's only 75 years off. Most likely what happened is Dr. Thompson's data is wrong. The cycle is not 5,200 years. It's actually 5,125 years. But again, he proved that there's a solar flash every time we go through this. And the reason why this happens is that there are gravitational currents inside the geometry. So when you get into one of these zones, very exciting things happen. So we talked about this before with the planets. They have a very persistent Merkaba formation, as you can see right here. And this creates spiraling currents of gravity. So at 19.5 degrees is where the nodes are on these planets. And again, we've got super chats coming in. So Dawn Hill, thank you. Lori Rogers, thank you. Okay. Appreciated everybody who's donating to us. Thank you so much for that. So these vibrational frequencies can rise or fall. And whoops, let's get back to the slide here. If I can actually do that. The vibrational frequencies can rise or fall, creating things, as I said, with this planetary diagram. This encompasses so many things, folks. It encompasses the great red spot on Jupiter, the great dark spot on Neptune. These are swirling clouds in the gases of the gas planets. There's the sunspots don't go higher than 19.5 on the sun. Jupiter has cloud bands, Saturn has cloud bands, the swirling spot. And then on Mars and on Earth, we have huge volcanoes exactly at 19.5. Hawaii on Earth and Olympus Mons on Mars. So again, I believe that in the case of like Hawaii or Olympus Mons, that this pattern is actually the way that the magma is swirling inside the Earth. There's this liquid inside the Earth, this liquid magma, and it's actually flowing in this pattern. Why? Because there's geometry that's pushing it that way. So on the corner, you're going to have this circulating geometric current of gravity. It's a swirling gravitational current that, again, causes the great red spot and the great dark spot if it's in a gas, or it causes the magma to blow up through the crust and create volcanoes on a solid planet. This is the physics behind this, and we can look all over the solar system and see that. Vibrational frequencies that these geometries create can rise or fall. And again, very importantly, the geometry itself is intelligence. The geometry is alive. The geometry is conscious. So when we go into a new node, we go into a higher consciousness. Oh my God, I'm getting so many donations all of a sudden. What happened? I've got $9.99 from somebody looks like maybe, I don't know what country that is exactly. P. Merlin, Gemini Moon, $100. Wow. Leanne Boudreau, your books are wonderful. Thank you. Steve Conwell, thank you for years of thought-provoking ideas. Wish you for only the best. Do not justify yourself. You are well-intended, a great soul. I can feel it, and I trust my gut. So here's the thing. Certain people have psychopathy, and I don't hate them if they do, but when you're a psychopath, you just simply get off on creating pain and misery. And unfortunately, the psychopaths love more than anything to target people who have some degree of public visibility, some degree of money, some degree of notoriety. That's who they really want to go after. So there are people who just specialize in, yeah, you know what? My life is all about screwing people up and making them feel bad and making them cry and making them, oh, you're a con artist. What have you done? You know, show me your video, show me your books, show me what you've got to add to the discussion. I'm just trying to do what I think is true. If you can't really see that this is intelligent stuff, okay, then go watch something else. It's fine. Anyway, I don't need to defend myself. So within this Merkaba, it actually divides into 12 cycles in the 25,920 years, which I'm showing right here. We draw, okay, we got Jennifer C., thank you, $4.99. Scott Quickle, $10, thank you. Really appreciate that, you guys. All right. So we got these, just think about it like a clock now. We got this basic Merkaba geometry. Now we're applying it to the binary solar system model of 25,920 years, and sure enough, we end up with these 12 unique units. And so each of those units, this is not arbitrary, folks. This is the age of the zodiac, lasting 2,160 years. And so if you add up 2,160 by 12, as you can probably imagine, it adds up to 25,920. And so, again, I was very lucky in the year 2000 that a member of the church I was going to at the time, I was going to an interfaith church called the Fellowship of the Inner Light, and I had a man named David Steinberg, and he gave me this book that he'd transcribed in 1981 by Francois Masson, who's a Frenchman who concluded with very elaborate scientific research that history is moving in 2,160-year cycles. So that geometry that I was just showing you, imagine now, let's go back to that for a second. Imagine now that as we go through each one of these different zones, that history is replaying itself. Imagine, like, if you will, that as our solar system is going through these zones, it's like we're etching events in history like a stylus. In the old-fashioned vinyl record album, you have a record that's created by sound that's etching a needle into wax. And then when you play it back, the etches in the wax will now vibrate the needle and make your music. But originally, in order to create the record album, you have to etch the wax. And what I'm saying is that as we, as people and as civilizations, create events on Earth, we're etching into these cycles. And so if you can imagine now, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, as you go throughout, wow, we got a bunch of donations again. And he's telling me his name now. He says, I'm Matt, good friend to you, brother. Michael, you lately are bringing so many gaps I had in my spiritual path of Tibetan Buddhism, ancient pre-Hindu Vedanta teachings. Thank you. Steve Willis, £99.99. Thank you. That's awesome. I don't want to click on anything here because it screws it up. But anyway, Lenny's Daily Meditations, $19.99. Thank you, guys. This is so awesome. I really appreciate it. This is way over my head, but I like to listen, says Betty Freddy. Betty Freddy. That's funny. Look, I'm not trying to make it hard to understand here, but I am pointing out that, like, if you look at number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, imagine now that there's a 2,160-year cycle of time, okay? And each time we're in the same period of the 2,160 years, we overlap with the previous one. So the way I've liked to imagine this is of a virtual sphere that takes 2,160 years to go through. And then as we go through each of these positions, the 12 positions, it's the same sphere again, and we're going over the same surface of it again, like a record album, and it plays back the old song. This is what's so weird. It plays back the old song. So here's Francois Masson saying, yes, as strange as this may seem, events that took place exactly 2,160 years ago, for example, between Rome and the United States, he has this incredible, incredible information. And we got 2 more of them coming in here. We got Love All Your Work, Andy Vander. Monoblock says, our best days are ahead of us. Thank you, David. All the beautiful souls out there. You're doing more than you know. I love wisdom teachings, too. I wish we could get back. David, maybe just thank everyone at the end of the show for super chats. That way you don't interrupt the message. Well, it is nice when people donate, so we want to celebrate that some. But yeah, we don't have to do all of them. Anyway, let's just try to stay on content here. So there are some very, very strange equivalence points between. Oh, and Steve Wills says it's not Willis, it's Wills. Cheers, mate. And he donated another $100, another £100 for that. Okay, I'll try to stay on topic here. So the Roman history reiterates into American history, and so one of the strangest examples was Richard Nixon. He is the reincarnation of Scipio Africanus. And when I look at the faces, I say, my God, they even have the very same face. Now, Scipio Africanus went through a very similar political scandal to Richard Nixon they were exactly 2,160 years apart. Scipio Africanus on the left got implicated in receiving bribes from the enemy. They were at war with a neighboring country, and here he is taking money from this country so that they won't finish the war. Apparently, so this dark stuff. Scipio Africanus was actually confronted in a major public outing. They handed him these books of evidence. The ledger books had the proof that he had given the money to the enemy. And very notably, he tore apart the books in front of everybody. He storms off and he resigned. The time that Scipio Africanus resigned is exactly 2,160 years apart from when Nixon resigned. They look alike. There's all these other things that are very, very similar between the two of them. Francois Masson lays it out in great detail. But again, even the faces match. It's very, very interesting. Then we have Cato the censor, and again, 2,160 years apart. He overlaps perfectly with Jimmy Carter. And once again, I mean, look at the facial similarity. It's just freaking astonishing. The nose, the lips, the chin, the shape of the ear, the shape of the brow, the shape of the eyes. I mean, it's the same frickin' guy. And this is the point. Dr. Ian Stevenson decided that, yeah, you know what? We're seeing reincarnation cases over and over again in the Middle East. We find these children, they remember who they were before, and they have a shocking facial resemblance to who they used to be. So these are two examples. We got Nixon. We got, Nixon looks almost exactly like Scipio Africanus. Jimmy Carter looks almost exactly like Cato the censor. And again, there's very precise elements in Cato the censor's life that overlap perfectly with Jimmy Carter's presidency. And then we're also getting into very big things like wars. There's World War I and World War II perfectly correspond in the 2,160-year cycle with Punic War number 1 and 2. Hannibal is a perfect dead ringer for Hitler. I don't have that slide in here. But then Hannibal and Hitler do the same things at the same points between the Second Punic War and the Second World War. They actually have a similar strategy. In Hannibal's case, he used elephants. In Hitler's case, he used tanks. They both used a system of blitzkrieg, and they both actually invaded the same lands exactly at the same time, 2,160 years apart. And it even gets down to within a level of days. So what in the hell is this, and what's going on here? I don't even really know, okay? I'm just telling you, this is real. And in fact, in my book Synchronicity Key, we have Professor Anatoly Fomenko, who concluded that all events in world history are cyclical. And this is his own original artwork. And what you're seeing here, obviously he's a Russian scientist. You see K, H, P, and C are the four major letters that we keep seeing popping up. And notice KHPC, KHPC, as you look down the list, it says 1778-year shift, 1053-year shift, 333-year shift. KHP and C are literally patterned historical events that keep repeating. So this particular mathematician in Russia looked at the entirety of recorded history and said everything is KHPC, KHPC, KHPC. Basically, that's what this is showing you, this diagram. So, whoa, that's really weird. And then he did stuff like this, where he looks at the history of Jewish kings in the Bible on the right, and then the Holy Roman German Empire on the left. And there's astonishing, just massive, massive amounts of correlation in these historical events. They're literally overlapping right on top of each other. And then we got a super chat, and he says, where are we in this timeline in the Yuga calendars? Well, we are at the end. Okay, the end of the 25,000-year cycle was December 21st, 2012. That's why I was expecting a solar flash, folks. But it's not just a solar flash. It's this weird integrated historical timeline, okay? So that's one of his examples. Here's another one. If you look at the first period of the Roman Episcopate, 141 to 314 AD, it precisely overlaps again in 314 to 532 AD. Cindy Thurmstrom says your work is highly appreciated. Thank you, Cindy. It's right there. Okay. And then we have another one here. Again, Jewish kingdom from 922 BC to New Era, and Holy Roman German Empire, 10th through 12th centuries. So this is very, very complex. It's very, very deep. It was actually endorsed by the chess master Garry Kasparov, who's like the best chess player in the world as a human. And again, what am I saying here? I'm saying that these cycles exist as personalities in the space around us. As we orbit through space, we're moving through these cycles that affect history. They change what's going to happen. It's like we're already hearing the song being played back. We are reincarnations of who we were in these other cycles. We have the same face, just like I do with Edgar Cayce. It's very, very strange stuff. And so the Logos appears in geometric form. The Logos is the mind of our galaxy, okay? And the geometry tells us this story. So as we move through these geometries that I've been showing you, we're moving through the hero's journey. So that's a very, very intrinsic point. In my book, The Synchronicity Key, I go through the hero's journey in great detail. I was very, very surprised when I found out that in Hollywood, you have to write screenplays based on this particular, what they call structure. They don't ever want to call it a formula. You get in a lot of trouble if you call it a formula. But if you don't use this, then your script fails the screenwriters. There's a screenwriter test that they have, these people who read your scripts, script readers. If you don't have the hero's journey in there, and it even has to be down to like the beat points of what happens and what pages, then your story gets rejected. So basically every Hollywood movie is the hero's journey, period. That's just what it is. They tell this story, and the basic outline of it is separation, initiation, and return. Separation is how we start. We feel bad. We're not happy about our lives. We have sadness, and then something gets us on a quest. Something initiates us. That's the initiation phase. There is an initiation that gets us onto a quest where we go out and we get what we want out of the quest, and then when we win the quest, which is what the story structure involves, there is always victory. You always win, okay? Then when you win, you return from this supernatural kingdom and you come back to the ordinary world, but now you return with the spiritual blessing. So a classic example of this story would be like slaying the dragon. The dragon exists in a magical kingdom, in a supernatural kingdom. The hero has to enter this kingdom to slay the dragon. The dragon is guarding, usually in these stories, the virgin and all this gold. And this is, again, symbolic of the virginal mind, as well as the gold of spiritual understanding. So all of this has to do with a spiritual quest. Separation, initiation, return is a cycle that we all go through all the time. We feel bad, we decide to do something about it, and then we fix the problem. If you want to talk about it in terms of storytelling, it would be a setup, a conflict, and a resolution. And then in simpler terms even, it's beginning, middle, and ending. So when you're doing a Hollywood screenplay, you have to have a beginning, middle, and ending, and those are called Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. So the beginning is Act 1, the middle is Act 2, and the end is Act 3. And again, it's setup, conflict, and resolution. So you have a hero with flaws, and that's the way all of us start out. We're all learning how to become more spiritual. We're all learning how to become more enlightened. There, I sat up and I got all this extra room. That's good. I like the way that frame looks. So when we're dealing with this stuff, there's a story that affects us on a macro level. In other words, the whole civilization goes through these hero's journey storylines, and we go through them in our own lives. Let's say that somebody upsets you, right? And you're pissed off. And then that's the setup. Then the conflict is that you decide you're going to tell them that you're pissed off. You have an argument. And then when you work out the argument and you decide that you're still going to be together, you have resolution. That's a 3-act structure. A breakup and makeup type of fight is a typical storytelling example. of the 3-act structure. Anytime that you feel bad and you decide to do something about it and you win, that's an example of the 3-act structure. It's simply about problem solving, dealing with the things, facing your responsibilities, facing up to life. Now, in the hero's journey storyline, this is very critical, folks. The hero has to be dead from 5 pages of screenplay. And there's some very sarcastic trolls in there right now. Like, you guys, I mean, honestly, what is it? Why do you want to be here and just hate on me and write all this crazy stuff? But, you know, there's people who do it. Somebody says, I just focus on the stream, not on the chat. I think that's a very good idea. Well, anyway, I really, you know, it's just crazy that some people just enjoy watching a show to hate on it. They don't really want to do anything except create disaster. But this is all very interesting stuff. So the hero has to appear dead for 5 pages of screenplay. Eva Rosier just donated. Thank you, Eva. What does this really mean? This means that when you're looking at Hollywood storytelling, you have to have a hero, you have to have a villain. The hero has to face off against the villain. The villain has to appear to have defeated the hero for 5 pages in the screenplay. Now, why is Hollywood writing movies like this? So, you know, the trolls I could care less about at this point. I've already had my whole life completely destroyed, so more people trying to tell me, fuck you, I don't even care. I really don't. Sorry if I swore. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I mean, all I've ever done is be hated for doing this work. All I've ever done since 1996 is have people coming after me. I used to write them, but it's just a sport for them. So what can you do? Whatever. I don't really care. So the point is, the reason why so many stories that are written by Hollywood, in fact, almost all of them, they require you to have this structure, is that it's like going to church when you see the story being told. You already know there's going to be a problem. You already know the problem's going to be solved. You already know the hero is going to overcome their flaws in the process of solving the problem. This is what we all do. This is the basic spiritual mechanics of life. If you want to hate on me and say you don't believe in this, that's fine. But the problem is, it's going to catch up with you. There is such a thing as the law of karma. There is such a thing as God. You are going to have to face against human ETs who are going to show up here in person, and you're going to have to be accountable for the way that you've treated people. And this kind of stuff you're doing right here is not going to make them like you when they show up. And they're showing up in like a year. So I really recommend you get it together. You don't have to listen to me now. You can laugh as much as you want, think this is BS, but this is very, very freaking real. What I'm telling you is not fake, and I am not doing this for money, and I am not doing this because I want to be famous. I didn't even want to do a show today, but I feel like I have to because of what's going on. So again, the hero has to appear dead. It's actually like between pages 85 and 90. It's even written out what page the hero has to be appearing dead on. So like when I watched Avatar, I'm like, oh my God, here's the whole thing. They're doing the whole thing. And here's the part where the hero's supposed to appear dead, and he's going to appear dead for a while, and he's going to come back to life. In E.T., Elliot appears to be dead, and then he comes back to life. E.T. brings him back to life, you know? In The Matrix, Neo appears to be dead. Agent Smith shot him, and then he gets back up off the ground, and he's alive again. So this is part of the story. And the problem is, if you understand that every single Hollywood movie is written this way, then you start to know what's going to happen. You're not afraid when the hero's dead, because you're like, well, yeah, he's going to come back to life. That's just what it is. And again, it's like Star Wars. It could be, you know, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's various examples of this, so many examples of this. Obi-Wan Kenobi was actually struck down by Darth Vader and then comes back in a light body, as another example. So really what I'm trying to say is that this 5 pages of screenplay where the hero appears dead, that is the dark night of the soul. And every Hollywood movie tells us the same story because we have spiritual DNA that recognizes this story. That's why it becomes mythology. The whole Joseph Campbell argument really is that mythology is the hero's journey. That's why it's called A Hero with a Thousand Faces. His main book, Joseph Campbell's big argument is, I don't know why the hell this is happening, but like every single ancient mythology around the world that's ever lasted the test of time talks about this thing called the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is, again, a pattern of events that we could call archetypal, meaning that we're all going to go through this in the course of our spiritual evolution. This is a galactic template. So when you see the story played out in a movie, you feel good because this is what's inside your DNA. You know that this is true. You know that the dark night of the soul is going to lead to a victory. And again, what I'm saying is that this story is written into the fabric of time itself. The hero's journey plays out inside the geometry as a type of dream landscape. So as we're orbiting through space, we're going through this. And as I said in a previous talk, the arrow of time points in the direction that you're facing. So as we're going through this geometry, like again, there's a 25,000-year geometry, I was showing you that. That's the arrow of time. But the arrow of time keeps pointing forward regardless of which direction you're going in. So in a dream landscape situation, you might be going through a very small little circuit, but the arrow of time is cyclical, and you're trapped in what they call true helplessness there. You can't get out of that cycle. You keep repeating the same karma. Once you learn, the law of one says, in forgiveness lies the stopping of the wheel of karma. That's the basis of the hero's journey story. In every Hollywood film, in every one of these conflict setup resolution things, what happens is that somebody has flaws at the beginning and they get over their flaws by the end in the process of facing off against the villain. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that as a planet, we are going through a hero's journey storyline. As a planet, we are on the 5 pages of the story where the hero has to appear to be dead before the victory. So if you think that the world is going down the tubes and nothing's ever going to get better, no, guess what? It's actually written into celestial mechanics. I proved that all of history is cyclical. We got the data from Anatoly Fomenko. We got the data from Francois Masson. 2001 or 60-year cycles. There's other cycles as well. We know that we have set up conflict resolution. We know that we have a dark night of the soul that follows after, that there's victory after that. So I honestly do trust in this system so much that I'm not worried about what's going on right now, because I understand the classified military world. I understand that they have technology to be able to listen in on any conversation. There is no way to have any secure conversation anywhere, because even if you were in a SCIF room, Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility, SCIF, even if you're in a SCIF, you're only going to have the ability to hide from, non-multidimensional technology, but they also have looking glass and they can project into anything. So there literally is no way to have a secure communication. And so the military has actually been tracking what the DS has been doing this entire time. They're very aware of all the criminality. They've been trying to stop this, as I said in the last show, since the time of Kennedy, JFK, if not earlier. And now all of this is reaching a crescendo. Classically speaking, militaries were involved in stealth state capture, overthrow of governments. This is one of the things that has been happening for so long as a result of the DS, that they decide who's going to be in power, and then they lay it all out there like a chess game. They set up the pieces, they set up the board, and sure enough, they get what they want. Their guy gets in, and they manipulate political events. If there's a guy they don't like, they issue all this hate about him. They say, oh my God, he grabbed her breasts and he did this and he did that. And oh my God, he ripped people off and he spent all this money. Oh my God, you got to vote for this guy. And so that's what really is going on. That's the way it's been all this time. It's not like we're having a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's the best government money can buy. And that's been the way it's been. And so that's all going to be changing very soon. We're going to see political events unfold. So again, you could laugh at me now. You could hate on this now. Oh, we got some more here. Phil Kusubris. And the men who hold high places must be the ones to start, to mold a new reality closer to the heart. That's from Rush. And Lori Schultz, thank you again. So we're seeing this play out now. We're seeing this hero's journey storyline. We're in the dark night of the soul. The hero is going to get up from the dead, and he's going to win the quest. He's going to defeat the villain. This is what's going to happen now on a planetary level. Everybody on Earth is now going through one hero's journey storyline. And this is what's interesting. When I research the cycles of history in the past, that isn't what happens. I've never seen cycles of history that affect everybody on Earth. I've never seen any example of the entire Earth going through a global depression financially at the same time. I've never seen any historical examples of the whole planet being facing off against some type of negativity, where everybody in every country is aware of it. It has nothing to do with Trump. Ultimately, he's just one politician in one country. This is a global thing that's happening. There's a global resistance effort going on. And it's very, very fascinating how this all works. So getting back to the storyline here, as we go across the geometry, it's going to repeat the history we saw before. These are the only 5 geometries I've ever found that seem to be in play. They're called the Platonic solids. And again, you got the tetrahedron, the octahedron, the cube, icosahedron, dodecahedron, and they all nest together. So these geometries fit inside of each other, as you can see here. Got the octahedron, the cube, you got the Merkaba, and you got the Icasa dodeca formation on the right there. And this is another example of how they all nest together. If you spend some time looking at that, you'll see everything. And they all fit inside a sphere, which again exemplifies the planetary geometry. So here's some examples of how that looks. And then here's some illustrations of it. So again, this is what happens as a sphere is naturally vibrating. These force patterns appear. This is all energy. And once you understand this, this is the basis of matter. It's the basis of atoms and molecules, electrons. Here's the dodecahedron inside a sphere. Here's your icosahedron inside a sphere. Here's an animation of the icosahedron inside the sphere, just so you can get a really good sense of what these things look like. And here's an animation of the dodecahedron inside a sphere. All right, so again, what I'm trying to tell you is that these are patterns of consciousness that exist in interstellar space. And as we, in fact, let me go back to that. Why not? So imagine now that as this image is rotating, I mean, it's going really fast, but imagine that that's your orbit. And as you hit these different node points, as this thing is rotating, it has direct effects on your consciousness, your state of mind, and your behavior. So if you in 2,160 years ago did something very significant, it's going to hit you again. If you were in a war 2,160 years ago, you're going to be in a war again. If you had to face fear and exhibit courage 2,160 years ago, you're going to do it again. And again, this is scientific fact. The data of the cycles of history is so voluminous, it's absolutely irrefutable, but it's a spiritual perspective that is very, very unique. So this is Michael's vision of our future. We are already in a geometrically defined holographic cycle that must end in victory. There is absolutely no way by universal law that the deep state can win. It is utterly and completely impossible. They cannot win. They are only trying to buy time. They are only kicking the can around. It is utterly, completely impossible that the deep state could ever win. It is impossible because the laws of physics will not permit it to happen. The laws of physics will not permit the planet to be destroyed. We are on a hero's journey thing, and all of the geometries and stories converge at the end of the cycle. All of the different stories that we've been going through naturally and miraculously resolve, producing what you could call the tearjerker cinematic ending. So this leads to, as Michael is saying, a spontaneous change in the physics of our reality. What do I mean by that? I mean that at the end of the cycle, there is this epiphany, but apparently when it happens to the whole planet, it's not just a typical victory where it's like, wow, yeah, we're safe again, people are having babies again. After World War II was over and Hitler was defeated, you had the baby boom. Everybody starts making love and having children. My parents were both born during the baby boom, 1945. So like right after World War II ended, everybody just starts having kids because there's this change and everybody feels like, wow, okay, Hitler is gone. The Nazis got defeated. World War II is over. Japan is not doing anything. Italy's not doing anything with Mussolini anymore. Hitler's not doing. We won. We're done. It's over. And then you have this baby boom. Well, when it comes out on the whole planetary level like this, it's very shocking because now it's like apparently we're going to have this spontaneous change in the physics of our reality that results from reaching this epiphany. And so it is a sudden, highly ecstatic upgrade into this new thing that I, just because of what I've experienced of it, as it's been shown to me telepathically, I call it stretch space. You're going to be able to feel your sense of touch in the objects around you, in the room around you, in the floor, in the ceiling, in the walls. You'll feel the chair, you'll feel the desk. You'll actually be able to feel them. Like you can stretch out rays of light from your body, and you can touch the chair. You can feel what the chair is touching. This is what I noticed, and again, it's very alarming. I have to say, I didn't like it. This is what happened to me when Mother Mary showed up. I had a Mary apparition, a Marial apparition. And it was very upsetting. In fact, it's hard to talk about it without wanting to cry, because it just, my body just started stretching out in all these funny ways. And if you're not ready for it, it's very, very shocking. So not only do we get this weird consciousness upgrade, apparently within a year, we also have our galactic family reunion. And this, again, as I've said in other shows, has been telegraphed in advance with things like Marcelino de Panical's Miracle of the Snow, this very exciting image of people with some type of snow formation on the bottom. They're shoveling at it, and there's all these cloud-shaped UFOs in the sky. And even you look on the bottom right, that one looks exactly like a flying saucer, as does the one on the left. So they were interpreting this as clouds, but whatever they were seeing, it was clearly Christian, right? Because they're associating with Jesus and Mary on the cloud, but there's a whole bunch of these in the sky. And on the ground, they had this funny snow formation, which again is probably a geometric pattern similar to crop circles. We also talked about Saint Germain, a guy who shows up in the 1700s, who appears to be critical in that he actually gave the speech that led the founding fathers to sign the Declaration of Independence. I was actually able to track down Saint Germain's original speech as the unknown stranger, and that appears in, I believe, Book 4 of the Michael prophecies. So in the 1700s, apparently one of the people that Saint Germain got the closest to was Voltaire, and Voltaire had a letter that he wrote to Saint Germain in which he says, "I hope you will return to me in your flying machine." And then Voltaire drew this illustration, as I said before, for his book that he was writing in the late 1700s called Micromegos. What you're seeing here is a commissioned art illustration from the late 1700s of the spaceship that the beings in Micromegos come to Earth in. And it is a flying saucer, exactly like what we see. So again, if you would like to watch these beautiful videos I made and read the 7 books, go to thedisclosure.com, and the code is Jubilation. So finally now, we're getting back into where I was last time. We're once again getting to the beginning of the story that I started to share with you last time. And I summarized a massive amount of information last time. I didn't really want to do it. I know there's going to be trolls who are going to show me, "Oh my God, you're such a con artist, you're making money, we don't care." No, that's just your own mind. You know, there's a lot of people. Look at the comments. I mean, look at how many people are talking. Spirit of Wisdom donated money, thank you. So many people love this stuff, but then some people just absolutely hate it, and they get really mad, and they think everybody else is a jerk, and they're just anger. Okay, so I don't know why that is. Believe me, this has not been a glorious life. I have not been making money, having a great time, eating filet mignon and going off to the theater and the plays and an opera. I mean, far from it. I'm living on chicken and bison and onions. I have a very, very simple staple food diet. No luxury at all. I've hardly ever gone to a restaurant in the last 2.5 years. I've hardly ever gone out. I've hardly watched any movies or listened to any music. All I've done is work on behalf of humanity's benefit while I'm totally functionally bankrupt. Okay? Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So again, as I said before, we have these UFO beings showing up who are Christian in nature, and they use conventional flying saucers. We got a lot more into that in the last episode. Those are the good guys. The bad guys are like reptilians, insectoids, and certain types of grays. And this is now something I would directly associate with evil. Okay, we've talked about this before. These types of beings, the reptilians and so on, according to the law of one, which again, if you've been paying attention to everything I've been saying since '96, I've always been promoting the law of one. These beings, the negative ones, actually contact members of the elite. They form the elite. They want these people to have the most money, the most power, and the most influence. So they typically end up becoming, major financial tycoons. This is apparently something that these negative entities can guide and steer you into doing. They can guide and steer you into becoming wealthy. They can guide and steer you into finding others like you, forming governments this way. They use murder, they use deceit, they use treachery. They're not telling you the truth. And it goes all the way back to the Roman Empire. This literally goes back to Rome conquering Carthage in the Punic Wars, and then they inherited Baal and Moloch. I guess it's not really pronounced Baal, although you got to remember the DS frequently uses Baal, B-A-L, to indicate Baal, the entity, but then they pronounce it Baal. So you got to look like cabal. The word cabal has Baal in it, B-A-L, Baal. Okay, so there's plenty of other examples like that. Like what's up with Balenciaga? Balenciaga, okay, that's another example. And there was some strange stuff associated with that recently that you might have seen. So anyway, the problem is people get so scared. They're so afraid of the truth. It's like, oh my God, wait a minute. You're telling me that the people who are doing evil on earth have spiritual advisors? Yeah, that's how it works. Demons are just as common as dogs and cats. Negative entities are just as common as plants, animals, birds, and fish. They're every bit a part of our reality. Every day, every waking moment, we are always being influenced by both sides. As I said in the last time, you can't pray yourself out of this. You can't hope that it's not going to happen. If you're being mean, if you're acting without compassion, like some of these people in the comments, just a few of them, thankfully, you're being influenced by negative entities. Absolutely. The words that you say are coming into your mind, and there's this entity that's feeding it to you. And what I didn't realize before is that they do occasionally, demons, if you want to call it that, they do occasionally show up in person. There are certain ways in which it can happen. It does involve usually, sacrifice. I don't think there's any way to get to see one in any physical way without that happening. So I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't be like lying there at night going, oh my God, what if a demon appears in there? No, it's never going to happen. You might see him in a dream. But the point is they actually do have faces, they do have bodies, they do have a certain physical appearance, and they're also very, very deeply involved in trying to make your life a living hell. They're in some weird parallel reality called time-space. It doesn't really exist. When they get into this reality, they have much more fun. They have a physical body, they have physicality, and they want to do things when they get here, and typically those things involve sex and violence. So there's a whole really weird, elaborate amount of information on this. I'd encountered it for many years. I'd seen things about the demonic. I was like, no, I don't believe it. It's so weird, it's so negative, it's so dark. I don't want to bring this into my field. I don't want to talk about this stuff to people because they're going to be so upset. But then with angelic beings, that's fun to talk about, right? Because, yeah, they look like us. They have showed up in all different types of racial configurations. It's not just like they're white people, Angelic beings have showed up in every racial configuration. And we're all going to be turning into something like this pretty soon. That's the really exciting part about Michael's message. So it is a hero's journey structure. It does take place in a 3-act pattern, and we are in the dark night of the soul. It is a galactic template. It is geometrically defined. There is literally a section of the geometry where you appear to be dead before there's a victory. We're in that section right now. The whole planet is going through this horrible thing. I'm not very happy. I mean, some guy freaking backed up into my car, crashed into me just a couple days ago, smashed out my fog light on the left side. And everybody's cars are like 4 months behind for getting an estimate around here because we had 5 feet of snow. There is nothing left to do here to get your car worked on for 4 months. Nobody can see you for 4 months because so many people crashed. Okay, that's how bad it was around here. And it probably did have something to do with me doing this video and the DS trying to take me out of the game, which is another reason why I don't want to, wait any longer. So again, one more time, if you want to buy my course and you want to learn about this geometry and how it all works and how it shows up in so many different things, go to thedisclosure.com and put in the code Jubilation. Now again, this is where we begin with the new material. So at this point, I'm going to hope that you've seen the previous show. If not, I encourage you to go back and watch it. Because again, there is a group that I call the Alliance that has been working for many years to defeat evil on Earth. And it's been through many, many cycles and many, many phases, and we are seeing a huge uptick in communications right now. So let's go back to this again. Just a couple of the slides I started the last show with. During the 2021 inauguration, there was some very weird anomalies going on. JB flew privately. He was denied Air Force One. He had to fly on a private jet to go to the inauguration. As I said before, you can watch this video. I just took a still image of a video of his caravan driving through. All of the military are doing this. This isn't just one little crowd. This is the entire line of military all the way down the street. They turned their backs on the presidential motorcade. You don't think that's important? You don't think it matters that they had no insignias whatsoever on their uniforms and this is everybody? No. I'm telling you it is significant because if you look at George W. Bush's inauguration, everybody's got their normal stuff, the medals, the insignias, everything. But it's not there in this other case. And then again, the rooftop shows that there was like basically only those unbadged military people there. There's hardly anybody in that crowd, and they're all wearing that same kind of dark, blackish military outfit. Now, I also saw this setup coming for a long time. I never trusted anything that I saw on television, and this was because I read it in the Law of One. So I want to give you something new now. This was a thing that really shocked me and pretty much almost immediately got me to stop watching television for good. I mean, I don't call television. What I'm doing is an educational video, but can you give me the same type of information we've been getting, this is a questioner, with respect to the unmanifested self interacting between self and gadgets, toys, etc., inventions? In this particular instance, this is the answer. We again concentrate for the most part in the orange center, which has to do with self, and the yellow center, which has to do with others. In a negative sense, many of the gadgets among your peoples, what you call communication devices, including phones, radios, and TVs, and other distractions such as less competitive games, which by 1981 would have included the Atari 2600 and Pong, these games and these communication devices, TV, etc., and of course this also includes smartphones, I cannot handle TikTok at all. Every time you go to the end of the video of TikTok, it goes boop, boop, does that little sound. That's the same thing they use in a casino to get you to keep throwing money into the slot machine. It's called operant conditioning. A tiny little sound, it's like this big bass, boop, and then bloop. Well, the bloop is like the sound of you drinking or eating. And so they literally want you to feel like you're feeding yourself as you watch these videos. So because I know what that is, I don't ever want to hear that sound. And if I ever see anything from TikTok, I always try to stop it before the end. And if I get to the end and I hear that thing, it makes me mad because I know what they're doing and I don't want to even have the sound messing with my brain, okay? It's true. It's the same thing they use in a slot machine. These devices have the distortion of keeping your mind-body-spirit complex unactivated. That doesn't sound good. So yellow and orange ray, which is the center of social activity and self-reflective activity, is much weakened, thus carefully decreasing the possibility of eventual green ray activation. Now, green ray activation is where you ascend and you're ready to go into fourth density. So again, that's ascension. Green ray is ascension. So what is this saying? This is saying that by watching television, you are drastically weakened. You are drastically weakened by watching television or getting involved in habit-forming social media stuff, habit-forming videos where they have this sound at the end that makes you want to keep watching more. It is carefully decreasing the possibility that you will ever be able to ascend. Well, sure enough, if you're really switched on to the truth, it's become very clear that television is now indeed a massive, massive alteration of reality. What we're getting from it is not at all the truth. It's very, very far from the truth. And the quote goes on from here. Others of your gadgets may be seen to be tools whereby the entity explores the capabilities of its physical or mental complexes, and in some few cases the spiritual complex, thus activating orange ray in what you call your team sports and other gadgets such as modes of transport. These may be seen to be ways of investigating feelings of power, more especially power over others or a group power over another group of other selves. So obviously they're not really that excited about competitive sports. Power over others. They don't really like that. What is the general overall effect of television on our society? And then again, the source identifies as Ra, but it is a Christian source. It time traveled, and back in those days, that's what it called itself. Now it's called Archangel Michael. Same thing. Without ignoring the green ray attempts of many to communicate via this medium such information, truth, and beauty as may be helpful, we may suggest that the sum effect of this gadget is that of distraction and sleep. And again, quoting from the previous line, thus carefully decreasing the possibility of eventual ascension. The sum effect of television is distraction and sleep. But we also know that in 1981, Michael was predicting there was going to be a worldwide attempted fascist takeover of the entire planet. They predicted this in 1981, and they said other weapons would be used that are not conventional. They're not nuclear, they're not bullets or guns. Other weapons would be used, some of which are psychotronic. All of these prophecies we've now seen play out. The COVID thing was definitely some kind of very strange event. The official storyline is probably not what happened, to say the least. And even the alleged treatment that comes out for it afterwards now is being very widely repudiated as not only not healthy, but actually very, very dangerous. And so one of the things that Michael has said over and over again, if you did take one of these, it's going to be okay, because as soon as this thing opens up next year, everybody has the potential to heal themselves, heal their bodies, and be fully restored. So you are not on some guaranteed negative timeline if you happen to do that. Now, in the last show, I talked about the alliance, and again, this law of one quote makes it very clear that they knew what was going to happen in the future. They knew that television was setting you up so that you wouldn't be able to activate green ray, which again is a loving consciousness. When love becomes the main thing that your life is about. If you're not at that point, you're not ready for fourth dimension. If you're not really able to love people and have compassion and hold space for them and have patience and understanding, you're just not ready, okay? And so the sum effect of this gadget is to decrease your ascension compatibility. Well, this was a very strong statement in 1981 that television was an inside job. And now we find out, if you were watching those ads in 1981 that were demonizing butter, parquet, right? And then there's a little margarine, right? They're trying to get you to take margarine. Now we find out margarine is 700% more dangerous than butter for your health. Why were they pushing this on us? Why were there so many parquet commercials? Why were there so many commercials? I tried so hard to eat breakfast cereal. Even once I became vegan, I kept saying, man, this is just what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have a bowl of cereal in the morning. But every time I tried to eat cereal, I'd have bowel problems. I'd have horrible skin problems. I'd have, stomach aches, pain, all this kind of stuff. I'd get breakouts. I learned I can't eat grain at all. It always made me sick. It always made me feel bad. Now it turns out some grains are very contraindicated. If you've heard of this various types of toxins that are being found, there's more all the time. One of the classic ones is gliadin, a protein that's put into all wheat products for the most part, that actually makes you fatter because your thyroid takes it up as thyroid 1, 2, 3, and 4 hormone. And then you don't get the energy you need from your thyroid hormone because this is plugged up by wheat. And your body doesn't feel the energy that you need, and so you're like, well, I need more food. So you eat more, and then you get fatter. Dr. William Davis, there's a great book called Wheat Belly, and everybody who talks about the wheat belly, they kind of walk up to the line, but they don't cross it. When I was hanging out in Virginia Beach in the early 2000s, I met up with some hypnotherapy people, and they do weight loss and smoking. And what I found out was that if you go to a hypnotherapy clinic and they want you to get results and lose weight, the main thing they tell you is don't eat any grain and don't eat any sugar. Or if you are going to eat anything with sugar in it, make sure it's like honey or molasses or brown rice syrup, or there's a couple others that are pretty good. Maple syrup is good. It's low glycemic, but you don't ever want to eat anything that's got high fructose corn syrup or anything that has oats at the end of it. These are You know, anything with monosodium glutamate, MSG, if it says spices, if it says natural flavor, don't eat it. Okay, so I pretty much stay away from all conventional prepackaged corporate food. I go with, this Dr. William Davis recommends in Wheat Belly, I go with single ingredient foods. Foods that, you know, like an avocado or like a piece of meat that's organic, just very bad, and I don't eat any grain, you know, and so it's hard to believe I'm about to turn 51 years old. I certainly don't look that age. I was born in 1973. I did listen to ABBA and play Pong. I did watch shows like Carol Burnett Show, All in the Family, MASH. Okay, I was alive and a kid in the 1970s. So there's been this organized resistance going on this whole time to push against this. And as I said in the previous show, the Shadow of Ezra channel is where I believe the posts have migrated. And there's a very compelling case that I made for that in the last show. Now, the only way you can get there is with this particular app. You've heard me mention it before. It's associated with the old-fashioned idea of a telegram. So that particular app that I mentioned is where you would be going. And then again, you type in this name and you can subscribe to it and you can start to see that, or you can just click on the links and get it online too. You don't have to have the app. But anyway, where we left off last time, there were a whole series of very compelling messages telling us, for God's sake, do not fall for the November bias. There's a variety of people out there who are giving out shows, information, briefings, and there is a consistent thread of, oh, everything's going to happen in November. Everything's going to happen. All the things we're seeing now are setting up what's going to happen in November. In the last show, I spent 3 hours, 700 slides, I believe it was, utterly demolishing that argument with absolute provable scientific fact. And then we kind of dropped off on the last show, and now we're back again. So they had some very, very interesting and contentious things to say. So the next one that comes out after my show was on March 11th, 2024, and it says, NH had the B whistleblower taken out. Now, again, this is America. People are innocent until proven guilty. This is hearsay. I have no proof of this. I am not saying that this actually happened. I am simply saying that if you go watch the last show, this source is highly informed. They appear to have access to a variety of intelligence. This is frickin' shocking. If this comes out in the open, and apparently it will, again, look at it. It had 189,000 views by the time I took this picture, which was earlier today. So almost 200,000 people have seen this. The Boeing thing was very strange, right? It's like, well, dang, okay. They're in court. There's this guy who's got damning information. It's pretty obvious that if they lose, that it could have a negative effect on their price, the price of their company, the shareholder price, the stock value. And then, it just so happens this guy does this to himself. Well, no. I mean, everybody speculates foul play, but then this really kind of hit it on the nose and gave a name. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. This is only hearsay, but it was very, very weird. Then on March 15th, they said, beware the Ides of March. And it says, T is surrounded by traitors, and then they do this fun game where it adds up to 17. JDR 1760 Superstar gave me 70 Canadian thank you. Therese Wade, eclipses can take 6 months to roll out their effects until the next pair of eclipses. Thank you. Thank you all for donating. So again, we're going back now to this interesting slide about that T is surrounded by traitors. And then shortly after, right around this time, there was a big purging of the RNC. And so other things are probably happening as well around this time that we just don't know about yet. And then they did another really weird one. On March 17th, they showed an image of the Fed. And it says, the Fed has been closed for about 3 years and hasn't printed any new currency since at least 2019. Now, this post has had 250,000 views, 245.3. And then they're showing you a picture of the building and it's all boarded up. It's been closed for 3 years and hasn't printed new currency since 2019. What in the hell are they talking about? Well, this again gets into the idea that there can be secret courts that are run by the military. They're not part of the open world. They're not part of everyday thing. You're not going to hear about it in the news. They're never going to get publicized what they do. but apparently some type of secret covert court order shut them down. Maybe it has to do with executive orders. I don't even know. I mean, this is very, very bizarre. But this, again, like, why is the building boarded up? Why is it all covered up? And I want to go and actually look at the money and see, okay, can I find money that's got dates on it newer than 2019 that's American money? I don't know. The next thing that was really, really super bizarre that actually made me feel great was on March 18th, and now I'm, going through all my snow stuff and just trying to survive. And they aired the climax scene from the movie V for Victory. And so this is where you see that. So the clip is 2 minutes, 19 seconds long. I looked up post 219. Doesn't really seem to be relevant here. But the main thing is, what is this about? What is happening in this quote? Well, it's, again, you got Natalie Portman is the main female actress. And at the end of this movie, you have all these people who are wearing the Guy Fawkes masks, and they all take the masks off at the same time, as we're seeing the British buildings blowing up in the midst of like fireworks. You're seeing Big Ben, just it all goes up. Parliament, it all goes up. It's like, whoa. I mean, this was very, very bizarre. And then everybody's taking their masks off and they're all looking. Now, the masks thing goes back to Anonymous, which was the original name for the Alliance. And in my next show, I'm going to talk more about that and get back into the history of where I was tracking this. Now, if you remember my last show, they had the image of Lord Rothschild and they had the image of Prince Charles, who became King Charles, and both of them had this red cross-out mark across their photograph. Now, the weird one with Lord R is that the cross-out came before, there was a British announcement that they had these two black horses and they'd captured a white horse, which usually the white horse symbolizes the king, but it was a captured horse without the king being on it. And the two black horses were carrying this very strange Harry Potter-esque type of dark, weird black umbrella. The whole thing is very strange. Go look up the original video if you can. I don't want to play it here because it might get me taken down, but they captured the white horse, and then the very next day after they do this very strange symbolic thing is when they announced that Lord R was gone. And I speculated in the last show that the British government itself might be responsible for this. So then they air this crazy thing on March 18th of like everything literally just going up in fireworks and stuff and everybody taking off their mask, and it's the end of the movie and it's a big victory and it's like a celebration. What in the hell is this actually saying? Well, they gave us another very, very compelling clue on March 21st, 2024. And I don't even know what in the world to make out of this, folks. It says the British royal family has ended. And if you look very closely, the word is quitting. And then we see the king and the queen, and then the families there by the side, but they're all made out of Legos, as if they're not really real anymore. And it says the British royal family is ended? They're quitting? What in the world? What do you mean quitting? Nobody's heard anything about that. That's not in the news. Well, then the last thing they showed you was some type of event taking place around Big Ben. What the heck is going on here? Well, apparently there's some type of secret thing going on, and they have already maybe been on trial. Maybe there's been long trials that have lasted for days and days and days, where various members of this family had to attend them, and they were having to answer for themselves, and it's all classified. Nobody gets to hear about it until the end when you start to see the videos. Now, it doesn't say that anybody's being offed. Okay, it just says they're quitting. The word is quitting. The word is not that we assassinated them or anything, whoever the we is, right? So they're quitting. Whoa, what in the world is that? Well, there is evidence that that is going on, and it just hasn't been announced yet. And I don't know what to make out of it. So again, this is all hearsay. All I'm doing is trying to connect the dots, just like you, trying to make sense out of something really bizarre, really strange, but there it is. Okay? So the next one that I saw here, and this is right around the same time, Ron Paul and Tucker talk, I believe, in the Black Swan. And this was on March 20th. Okay, so this is very simple to figure out, folks. The Black Swan means there's some type of crash in the basic way that the society functions, the economics, the ability to pay for things, to eat food, to pay your housing bills, your electric bills, whatever they are, the black swan event makes all that become very difficult. And if there is a short period of time where something like this were to take place, as Ron Paul is saying he believes it's going to happen, okay, he believes, it's pretty simple. You have an event, there's a huge crisis, people can't take money out, they have to live on the food that's in the house that they still have, they can't buy new food, they're very, very angry, they demand justice. All of a sudden the Supreme Court says, hey, you know what, we need to redo this whole thing, it was done wrong in 2020, we got to do it again. Let's have a redo. It's that simple. It's that simple. Black Swan plus Supreme Court plus redo equals bang. You don't have to wait for November. It doesn't have to involve violence. It doesn't have to be a big deal. There's an event. The authorities come in. The adults, the real adults come in. The true adults, the alliance comes in and says, hey, you know what? Here's what's going on. And here's how we can fix this. And everybody will be ready for it at that time. That's all that it could be. Now, this is another very, very strange thing. This was a Shadow of Ezra post on Twitter. And it was actually linked to in their TG. But it says, and this was on shortly after the Ides of March, around the 20th again, black smoke is seen near Lincoln Memorial on Washington's National Mall. Black smoke has been rising Friday near the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The source of the smoke is not immediately clear. The Ides of March, question mark. Now, wait a minute. This is the same guy that just posted the Ides of March on his TG channel 2 days before, 3 days before, or 5 days before, something like that. And now there's black smoke. We don't know what it is, but it's right in Washington, D.C. Well, we talked last time about underground warfare and that the U.S. military was trained in infiltrating buildings from the bottom up, and nobody even knows they're there. They go in, they get one guy, they take him to trial. He just goes missing, and nobody even knows that he left the building because he got escorted out by the military through the air shaft or whatever the heck it is. So we're expecting to see underground explosions. We're expecting that there's stuff underground that's going to be very nasty when we learn about it, where there's very nasty things going on. There's people and children being held in captivity, and they're going in, rescuing who they can, and probably wiping out the rest. And so this appears to be another example of that, because he already linked to it on his main page. He says, make sure you rate the community note as not helpful. It was left by a big pharma shill. So he forwarded this. So when we go to see that letter, the community note says, Washington, D.C. Fire and EMS reported on X that the source was a vehicle fire on George Washington Parkway in Virginia, and it has been extinguished. Well, is that really what it is? That might have been there. There might have been a vehicle fire there, but apparently, if they're going to the trouble of telling us about this, this is most likely another major event. Something major went down, and many people are saying, you know what, black smoke is usually associated with the loss of a pope, the death of the pope, or the death of a major public figure, once again. So there's a death omen in this too, which is very strange. So again, he said, rate this as not helpful. And then somebody in the comments says, the Ides of March is a historical event, falls on March 15th in the Roman calendar, remembered as the date when Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, marking a significant turning point in Roman history. And then Alpha Jerk says, black smoke is when the Pope dies. Is somebody trying to tell us something about B? So this is really fascinating. There's an ongoing pattern of weird smoke appearing out of the ground, sounds of explosions. There's all this stuff going on that we just don't know about. So if haters don't believe me, that's just an excuse that they're using to not feel scared about this. They don't want to be scared. So they say, I hate the messenger. I attack the messenger. I won't let him be right. He's got to be doing it for money. He's got to be a con artist. Okay, but I'm showing you hard data here. Okay, this is hard data. The next thing that for me in the aerospace community I found very sad was reading the comments on Zero Hedge when the B-21 was rolled out. And the reason why people are so upset is that, as it says right here, I just typed in on Google, what's the estimated cost of one airplane for a B-21? It's $707 million. $707 million for one aircraft. I mean, this is almost $1 billion. It's a staggering amount of money, and it doesn't really seem right. And so, as you know, my company, our highest end technology that we have is the SM-39, and this is next generation air defense. Okay, only $85 million, and it's the fastest and most badass thing that anybody will have ever built once we get it done. And we're getting huge interest on this plane now. By the way, this is going to happen, and I'll even show it to you up close even more. There it is. So I've talked about this before, and we have figured out a way to do this. We're a new company. We don't have to pay, thousands and thousands of retirement accounts and pensions and that kind of thing. And so we can get the prices down by like a factor of 10 for something of interesting quality. Now, there might be a reason why you want to have the B-21 too. I'm not saying there isn't. But this could add another option that's less expensive. Okay, let's put it that way. Now, the next thing that really, really showed me, just get rid of the November bias. Don't even pay attention to it at all. If anybody's saying that, they got other reasons why they're saying it, or they just don't know any better. And I'm not angry at them, okay, but I'm just saying it's not going to be in November. You get a black swan plus Supreme Court equals redone. We have to do it again. Boom. New votes. There it is. Okay, so on March 21st, the Alliance had some very, very provocative comms. Dan Scavino comes out and says, never announce your moves before you make them. And he's showing the image of a lion. Now, this is curiously related to the Black Panther dream that I had before, where I pushed against the Black Panther. Now, the Black Panther, of course, could symbolize various aspects of the DS, and it's not too hard to figure out what aspects those are. I talked about them last time. But who could push back against the Black Panther? Well, the only creature who could really push back against the Black Panther in nature would be the lion. The lion would win against the Black Panther. So here they are showing the lion, the most powerful creature in the forest, and it says, never announce your moves before you make them. Now, does that indicate that we're waiting until November? No. It ties in directly with this post that T had made in the past, where he says, move slowly and carefully and then strike like the fastest animal on the planet. So read that, and again, go back here and read this. Never announce your moves before you make them. And they're showing you the fastest and most dangerous animal on the planet. So part one is, we're not going to tell you what we're going to do before we do it. And part two is, we're going to strike like the fastest animal on the planet after we've moved slowly and carefully. And this was also tied in with the post number 381. We're not going to telegraph our moves to the enemy. We will, however, light a fire to flush them out. So again, the fire, like the black smoke, okay, there's some really interesting things going on here. What does this really mean? Strike like the fastest animal on the planet. It doesn't mean November. It's not like, oh yeah, well now we know we're going to wait until November and then they're going to do it unannounced. No. It's happening now. Please stop saying November. If anybody's saying November, just kind of back away from it, because there's so much evidence to the contrary. I don't believe it at all. So they're talking about this stuff. This is very strange. And then the next thing that happens is you see these kind of posts coming out. Oh, wink, wink. So ISIS is behind the attack that we just saw. Nah, nobody's buying that. Why would they all of a sudden have a bone to pick with this country, with R? It's not going to be with that country. But again, you see, it's what's the badge below her? Well, that's a government agency in America, isn't it? This is what everybody is thinking. Nobody believes that story. And it's a horrible story. I mean, when you use automatic weapons like that, the bullets are very large and they tumble over end in the air. And so when they hit a person, they're usually going to be lethal, whereas smaller, handguns are not. You have a fairly good chance of living if you only get shot once or twice by a handgun, unless they hit you in certain places. But if you get hit with an automatic weapon like that, these massive bullets, they're turning end over end, it just tears everything up. And that's why, again, the death toll is over 130. It's very sad. We are going to do a global peace meditation, and I feel very sad about this. But we can't just stay in the grief. We can't just stay in the, oh my God, this is so horrifying, and who did it? You know, people are already joking about it. It might be a little bit off color of a joke, but no, nobody believes the official media story on anything anymore. Now we're going to go to the posts they made. All of these posts appeared on March 23rd, right as this thing happened. So this is the whole list. It starts on the 22nd. So we're going to go through them one by one. But this is, I'm just showing you how they all line up together. What's the highest number of views any of them has? The second one has had almost 200,000 views. So there's a lot of people are looking at this right now, okay? And a lot of people are doing videos on this right now. So then on the 22nd, they say Russia has now transitioned from a special military operation to a state of war. And then almost immediately after they say this is when this attack occurs. It's now up to 133. And so I took a picture from CNN about that. The very next thing they wrote after this happened was this. CIA attack in R, the same day R goes into a state of war. Are you ready for Putin's response? Whoa. Whoa. So they're blaming it on not ISIS, obviously. And they are saying that it happened right after the state of war got started, which the state of war could lead to all sorts of weird things. We don't really know what this is. Are you ready for the response? Then the next thing they said was this. They staged an attack, and then they released an AI video of KM at the same time. Does this mean KM is no longer with us? No, but she may be in some type of trial or hearing. And remember, they said the British royal family has ended, and then they used the word quitting. So I assume this is somehow related to her quitting. There's all these speculations, and people thought that she was gone. There's speculations about the British flag being at half-mast. Who is that in response to? Is it Charles? Is it Kate? What's going on? Nobody really knows. But again, if they're quitting, it doesn't necessarily mean anything has happened to her other than that she's in a very long set of meetings that nobody is hearing about. I don't know what this is, okay? I'm just trying to do my best to cover the information. Then it says, in the moments prior to the attack, several unidentified military helicopters were sighted in the area. So it's all, and now we've already had the country in question that was attacked reporting, yeah, you know what, these are Tajik guys, and they came out of Tajikistan, and then da-da-da-da, they went through this country, and then they were heading back to this country. They were captured, and they've confessed. They did not just kill them all, which would have been a very dumb move. By keeping them alive, you get them to talk, you get them to say what they were doing. It's not going to be ISIS, okay? And this might be the final straw that breaks the camel's back, because wait a minute, you guys are losing, and then in order to lash out, you're going to do this? It's like, you're against international law now, and there's very big consequences for this. And it's just really, really scary and awful. Then they ratchet up the tension even more. March 23rd, they start warning us directly about the April 8th solar eclipse, which is the whole reason we're here today, folks. This is where it started. Give this community note a rating of not helpful. He wrote this on March 23rd. And then, as you see what it says, American businesses are receiving a visit from FEMA regarding disaster assistance notices with deadlines. The deadlines are the same day as the solar eclipse on April 8th. Whoa. So then, here's the shot from the video at the 10-second mark. Annie Stewart, $20 New Zealand. Thank you. Deadline April 8th. He's got it on this very funny pizza box. All anybody wants to talk about is the cheap pizza that he's eating. It's so funny. But he gets this letter that says that there's a deadline of April 8th for this FEMA disaster coaching. So again, in the previous shot, you can kind of see where it says, okay, there's a phone number there, and it's giving you the phone number to call for disaster assistance. If there is a disaster, FEMA is now showing up in person, and they're saying, here's the deadline, and the deadline is April the 8th. So then he said, rate the community note is not helpful. What is the community note? There are currently 6 disaster application deadlines for FEMA assistance across the U.S. The original video is only for applications to the recent storm damage in Michigan. Late applications may be allowed after April 8th. Now, again, he said, rate the community note is not helpful. That means that this is not fake. It's not just, oh, yeah, it's just this thing. It's April. It doesn't matter that it's the eclipse. It doesn't matter that it's Michigan. It doesn't, No. There's something going on. There's something, maybe the bad guys are planning it, maybe the good guys are planning it, but we have 2 weeks, and eclipses are a big thing. So if you haven't already gotten, survival prepper stuff stored up and ready to go, I would say please do that because, we don't know what's going to happen yet. Then they ratcheted it up even more. On March 23rd, Athena Van Wenderbroek sent me a donation. Thank you again. On March 23rd, 2004, they said, the world is ready. The stage is set. That is not the November bias, okay? And we have P and T shaking hands. The world is ready now. The stage is set. Look at the context. Strike like the fastest animal on the planet. Do not telegraph your moves in advance. They just said that a couple days before this. Now they're saying the world is ready now and the stage is set. And then the second thing is this song called New Alliances, which is a song in 7/8 time. I love to compose in 7. You get that pulse of 3 rhythm. And it is weird because my dog drinks water in 5, 4, and 7/8 time. She goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm like, yeah, she's drinking in 7, or she's drinking in 5. Like the classic Dave Brubeck song, Take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So this is a song in 7, which is easier to do than 5. I was very impressed. The local Boulder kids were playing Take 5 on their saxophones when I went down into Boulder recently. I couldn't even believe it. They were so good at it. I was like, wow, these are high school kids. And they're doing like this crazy 5/4 classic jazz song. I loved it. Anyway, New Alliances, and then we got somebody shaking hands. So again, I don't know what the heck this is. Let's just hope the war is going to end. Let's just hope that, we don't have to keep being on the brink of nuclear apocalypse, and that seems to be what's going on. So this brings us up to the present. This is the most current that the messages have been. And so now I'm going to take you into a little meditative thought. As you look at this image, I want you to think about the prophecies, how far back in time all of this goes, that we are now living through this geometric universe that is coalescing a new reality for us. There's something that's coming into view, the completion of the hero's journey, the epiphany, the victory that comes at the end of years and years of struggle. This is cyclically written into the cosmos itself, that we are all now apparently going into this 4th dimensional activation. We're going into this, somebody said the fastest animal on the planet is a falcon. Okay, fair enough. Not sure why I'm spinning. But anyway, hope that we're still on. Let me get to the next slide. Hope that everything's okay. We had a little bit of a buffering issue there, but okay, don't you want to see my smiling face just once? Okay, yeah. So I don't know. There's a little bit of a buffering issue there, but it looks like it didn't stop the live stream. We got 2 hours and 13 minutes. Let's take a couple comments here. I hear National Guard and emergency activations are giving large cities more resources to help with heavier traffic. Yeah, you could say that's part of it. But look, there's something going on. The official source is warning us. You don't ignore those things. You don't just say, oh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe this is true. Da-da-da-da-da. That's not how it works. All right, I'm continuing to have strange interruptions in my show. It went out again. I hope it doesn't keep doing that. But we are almost done. Why do you think these royals become so old? 88, 100, Queen Mother 100, Queen 99, Prince Philip 99, Kissinger 99, David Rockefeller 98. And then he says what the answer is. It could be that. Haters, not creators. Keep doing what you do. Love you, David. I'm getting spammed with commercials and it's constantly buffering. I apologize for that. Hopefully that will not keep happening. But we're doing the best that we can. So anyway, I wanted to end out the show with some quotes from the book of Enoch. This is another kind of millennial thing that we're going to end it with. We got about 15 minutes left. I didn't want to go past 2.5 hours. I can probably get it done before that. But this is a great meditation too. So let's start meditating. And remember, what you're about to read, as you breathe in deeply and as you start to take all this in, this is an original prophecy from what would have been in the Bible the same time as Moses. It was redacted from the Old Testament. They did not include this book of Enoch because it's too sizzling, okay? And it predicts what's going on right now. So check this out. This is amazing. Here we go. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. Now, I originally interpreted this as some type of solar flash, and they do refer to that. Okay, but the important point is that this ancient prophecy that should have been in the Old Testament but didn't get to make the cut is saying that negative energy will be removed from the planet. And that is exactly what we are seeing right now. This organized evil on a global level is being stopped. The story that you've been told about, oh, you need to hate this particular politician, you know, the 45th president, no. I mean, that's not, if you're buying into that narrative, there's so much omitted from the whole discussion that you're not even seeing. You're just not even getting it. It has nothing to do with that. So the wicked and godless will be removed. Well, this is done, you know, through a variety of means, but again, it appears to be happening through the alliance, that they are stopping this takeover from continuing. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw. This prophecy was not for my generation, but for a remote one which is yet to come. It's for us right now. And in the days of the sinners, this is now 80 verse 2, chapter 80, verse 2. In the days of the sinners, their years shall be shortened, the seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields, and all things on the earth shall alter, and shall not appear in their time. And the rain shall be kept back, and the heaven shall withhold it. Whoops. Well, that right there is totally the prophecy of climate change and all these weird disasters that we're seeing now, droughts and famine and all that kind of stuff. It's all in the book of Enoch. Then he says, and in those times the fruits of the earth shall be backward, and shall not grow in their time, and the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. Oh, Kathleen Auckley sent me $50. Thank you. You are boots on the ground. Thank you, David. I appreciate it, Kathleen. And the moon shall alter her order, and not appear at her time. Well, this sounds like a pole shift now, right? That's the whole idea of the pole shift. That's what I thought this was, folks. And in those days the sun shall be seen, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west. Apparently they picked that out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, things don't quite look right. You got to kind of figure out what it means. That's what they did there. And the sun, this is the part that absolutely is, they know what it said. The sun will shine more brightly than accords with the order of light. That is the solar flash, okay? The sun shall be seen to shine more brightly than the normal light that it gives off. And we've already talked about, we did have a solar flash next door on Proxima Centauri on December 21st, 2012, right on time. It's apparently being held off here so that we have a non-catastrophic global ascension without pole shift, without volcanoes, without being incinerated by a solar flash, okay? The sun shall shine more brightly than accords with the order of light. Many of the chiefs of the stars shall transgress their prescribed order. That again means the stars are moving in the sky. It's a pole shift. This would have been in the Bible, okay? It's right from the time of Moses. And these shall alter their orbits. They're actually saying the planet's orbits will change directly and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. Wow. The whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, meaning the people who are not going to be going through this ascension, they don't understand what's going to happen. They might not even be here on earth by then, you know. And the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning the sinners, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Doesn't this sound like COVID and everything that's happened since then? Yeah. Yea, they shall err and take the sinners to be gods. This is exactly what we are seeing right now. They don't see the future. The sinners don't care. They're talking about the people on earth. The Moleka kings is another name for them. And people on earth will take them to be gods. Well, that's the way they want it to be. They want to be worshipped. They don't like you. Okay. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth. This is actually talking about the mass arrival of benevolent ETs that are human, angels. The eternal God will appear on the earth. They will come forth from their dwelling and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. This means it's not just one person. The strength of his might means it's multiple people. Got another one, Kilala, $15. I came late, but I love your work. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so next we have, all shall be smitten with fear. That's happening right now. And the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. This is what immediately precedes the arrival of these benevolent angelic human beings, okay? They will tread upon the earth. They will come forth from their dwelling. Barbara Vadas, thank you. Starchild Organite, thank you. And great fear and trembling shall seize people. The high mountains of heaven shall be shaken. This again is like the pole shift idea. The high hills shall be made low. Yikes. And shall melt like wax before the flame. What? And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and everything on earth shall perish, and there will be a judgment upon all. But with the righteous, God will make peace. Okay, so check this out, right? The mountains shall be melted like wax. That could only happen with a solar flash. A sustained burn of 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt metal, hot enough to destroy all the atmosphere, hot enough to cause everything alive on Earth to die. It basically sterilizes the whole planet. And then ETs have to do a, Noah's Ark type of thing where they save the animals they want to save and they bring them back. And that's what Moses was talking about. Right during the time they're talking about Noah's Ark is when this came through. And they're predicting the conditions that will take place where the sinners appear as gods. They want to be worshipped. Everyone is terrified. But then this part of the prophecy, thankfully, because we did our homework, according to the Michael prophecies, this doesn't have to happen. We're not going to have to all get burned up. But this is what the prophecy says is going to occur in the original text. It's just that now we did our homework, we took the warnings, we've become compassionate enough. According to Michael, everyone on Earth is going through this dimensional shift, as long as you're still here for the time it happens between now and sometime next year. And the dimensional shift is preceded by the arrest and exposure of the usual suspects, the villains on Earth, the real ones. We're going to learn about the truth once and for all. So let's keep going here because there's even more. It's so amazing. God will protect those who are the elect. Again, this everybody now. It's not just a few people. And mercy shall be upon them. They shall all belong to God. This is now going to be everyone on earth, right? They shall all be prospered and they shall all be blessed, meaning there's going to be a financial recovery, and he will help them all. And light will appear unto them, meaning they become luminous beings. And he shall make peace with them. Wow, this sounds great. This is ascension. Their souls shall grow strong within them when they see my elect ones, which again is multiple. Ones is plural. This is the angelic return I'm talking about. And those who have called upon my glorious name, their souls will grow strong when they see the angels return. I mean, don't you think you'll have a lot more faith once all these things happen? Don't you think your soul will get stronger when you realize that spirituality wasn't a joke and you weren't just spiritually growing for no reason, but there was a definite end point to your universal evolution? Then will I cause mine elect one, the ones, multiple, to dwell among them. And I will transform the heaven and make it into an eternal blessing and light. And I will transform the earth and make it into a blessing. And I will cause my elect ones to dwell upon the earth with you. But sinners and evildoers shall not set foot thereon. For I have provided and satisfied with peace my righteous ones, and I have caused them to dwell before me. But for the sinners there is judgment impending with me, so that I shall destroy them from the face of the earth. That's some strong languaging. Blessed are ye, righteous and elect, for glory shall be your lot. And the righteous shall be in the light of the sun. This is again light body activation. The elect shall reflect the light of eternal life. The days of their life shall be unending, and the days of the holy without number. I mean, that sounds so awesome. And again, we're going to be glowing. This is a brilliant prophecy. And they shall seek the light and find righteousness with the Lord of spirits. There shall be peace to the righteous in the name of the eternal Lord. And after this it shall be said to the holy in heaven that they should seek out the secrets of righteousness, the heritage of faith, for it has become bright as the sun upon earth, and the darkness is past. So there might even be like a luminous phenomenon associated with this, where it's like as Prince said in the song 1999, you can always see the sun, day or night. You know, and he's saying partly like it's 1999, because he was expecting the ascension in 2000, as some people were. I called my website ascension2000.com originally, as you probably know. So this is a fascinating, fascinating prophecy. There shall be a light that never ends, and to a limit of days they shall not come. And it means for a number of days they shall not come. The darkness first has to be destroyed, and the light of uprightness established forever before the Lord of spirits. Okay, well, we've reached that point in the show where it's time to do our global peace meditation. So I want to thank you all for being here. This has been amazing. I want to get done within 2.5 hours, because that makes it more likely people will watch. So let's now cut over to camera 5. Babette Wallace just donated. Thank you, Babette. And angels, for example, are much more oriented service to others as they have left a survival consciousness, yes, and moved on to a thriving perspective. That was from Dean Pratt. David Friedline says, thank you, David, from the heart, brother. Please keep doing your thing. Haters are like flies. We know the last thing they see when they hit the windshield. Well, again, I don't want any bad stuff to happen to my haters either. I just wish that they would be nicer to me, I guess. But wow, look at that. We got 9,000 viewers. So that means we have enough to do the meditation effect for the whole planet. All right, that's perfect. So please don't hang up. We're only going to be here for 5 minutes, tiny little meditation. It's much better that you stay with me and not just click off. So hang in there. Let's do it right now. Here we go. I want you to close your eyes. Put both feet flat on the floor. And imagine yourself breathing deeply, going ever more fully into a state of meditation and relaxation. Cleansing your lungs with a filling, healing breath. Becoming more and more deeply contented, so that you just feel so much peace as you breathe in and out. Taking all of these different things we've been looking at, celestial geometry, the hero's journey, the idea that there's 5 pages of screenplay where the hero has to appear to be defeated, that all Hollywood movies are written this way because it's in our DNA. A galactic structure of the spiritual evolution through the hero's journey, and how we are now seeing this occur on a massive global level. Once and for all, it's all coming into view. So we're now learning to take time to breathe a little more, cleansing our lungs again, going ever deeper into a state of total peace, total relaxation. We trust the Alliance. We trust that this is all going in the right direction. And we send our love and our prayers of healing and support to all those who are in threatening, miserable circumstances, to all those who are in fear for their lives, to all those working on behalf of the Alliance to help humanity get through this new phase of its evolution. There are many mysteries here, but the important point is that the light is being restored in us. We are becoming something more than what we ever have been before. The change is happening now. We take a look at all these different pieces of evidence, and we eagerly await the unfolding of the positive events where we're no longer in the dark night of the soul, the hero no longer has to appear defeated, but there is an epic positive change coming into view. And it's a change that we can all understand. It's a change that we can all appreciate. It's a change that we can all learn to live with. And it's happening right in front of our eyes. Each moment we are seeing new events unfolding. And we just learn not to be afraid, but to live in peace, in love, in truth, in honesty, in patience and forgiveness. And so it is. Let us again take this light and send it to all those in need of prayer and healing. Send it to all those who are doing their best to bring us out of harm's way. All those who are on very intense missions right now and doing high priority, high intensity things. We trust that now is a time where all of the promises that we were made in these ancient scriptures are coming true. That those who seek to ruin the earth will no longer be able to do so. It's only going to be a place of love and peace and happiness, higher technology and positivity. And so it is. Take this light now and return it to yourself. Send the energy back to yourself. And now I'd like you to send it to the planet Earth, send it to the whole consciousness of this planet, knowing that we will take care of it, we will make sure this is okay. And so it is. Amen. Now I'd like you to come back to the room. We're at the 2 hour and 30 mark right now, so this is a great time to stop. So with that in mind, I'll cut to my little slide here. Actually, let me cut in on a close shot. So I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for ordering our products. TheDisclosure.com, codename Jubilation. And then we have Disclosure Fest 2024, thedisclosurefest2024.com/David. If you want to actually get to see me and Chris Beskar and other insiders in person, we will be there. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next show.